Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another podcast. I'm Captain Logan.
I'm Eric.
And Eric and I are finally going to tackle The Matrix Revolutions. Probably no one's favorite Matrix movie. And this is quite obligatory. We have to.
If it is your favorite, sound off in the comments. I want to know.
I actually want to know. And I'd love to know your reasons. Yeah. Because no disrespect to anybody, but I've never met anybody for whom, this was their favorite Matrix movie, or even really anybody that really, really likes this. I know.
But I've also never met anyone that thinks Reloaded is better than the first one.
Well, no, that's true. Okay.
I think the general consensus is 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
Like declining quality.
Yeah.
Even people like Reloaded. No one likes Reloaded more than The Matrix.
But is there anybody that likes Revolutions even more than Reloaded?
I've never heard that argument.
That's what I'm saying. I've never heard that.
I've never met that person. Nor have I ever heard that person on a podcast.
Obviously, we both always thought this was a real lackluster ending, and it really drones on. I was absolutely shocked and dismayed pulling this up on HBO Max. They are on HBO Max now, finally. Hilariously, I think the Animatrix might actually be gone now, but the trilogy is there. I'm not sure about that. Anyway, by the time you hear this, it's likely to be completely changed again, because HBO Max is constantly rotating things out. But right now, it's on. I would not be that surprised if we didn't get halfway through this and HBO Max pulled it while we were watching it.
I'm shocked it's only 2 hours and 10 minutes.
That's what I was about to say. I am shocked and dismayed that it's that short, because it feels like a 2:45 movie. Yeah. Yep, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Now, I will also say, I have not seen this in its entirety since theaters.
Oh, interesting. Maybe you said that last time.
I have seen bits and pieces of this movie, on TV here and there, but I've never sat down and rewatched this movie because I disliked it so much.
Yeah.
But it's from the period of my life where I seem to remember things better than yesterday. I remember I remember things from my teenage years way better than I remember things that happened last week. But also, I did talk about it a lot, and so it was kind of like Dark Knight Rises. When we sat down Dark Knight Rises, I was saying things not because, I knew that movie so well just from talking about it. I didn't have new epiphanies when we watched Dark Knight Rises.
You kept replaying it in your mind.
Yeah. And so
that could happen with that.
Revolutions is like this too, where I just talked about it a lot when it came out. So it's not fresh in my mind. I feel like I know it pretty well.
Yeah. You feel like you've been practicing for this.
Yeah.
Even if you haven't been watching this.
Yeah. Although, not like Rises. I don't know if I've really talked about Revolutions much.
No, because we spent 6 straight years trying to figure out Rises.
Yeah. And
by the time we finally did the commentary, we were ready.
Revolutions kind of died off.
Sure.
Every once in a while, you talk about The Matrix, but not more than anything else.
The Matrix is, and maybe I made this point. I'm gonna have a hard time not saying this a lot. Maybe I made this point last time, because there's a lot of stuff about this movie that we couldn't help but go ahead and broach with Reloaded because of where things were ultimately leading. But I was gonna say, The Matrix is exactly like Lost, where there's just this huge, massive fan base for that, and a lot of people that cared no longer care. Mm-hmm. You really have that, and it's not just because it's old. There's a lot of stuff that stays in the zeitgeist that people, still really care about. Mm-hmm. Even though I don't like Rises, it's not like people don't care about the Nolan trilogy anymore. That's still talked about.
No, but I feel like
maybe not the way it might have been had that movie not been as polarizing, but it's talked about, more often in a people like it more than this stuff.
I feel like The Matrix was
more complimentary
tainted by its sequels.
Really
bad.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Because in exactly the same way as Lost was tainted by its ending.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
And
it's the same thing.
You can't talk about The Matrix without talking about the sequels.
Mm-hmm. Which sucks, because that's a standalone movie. You should be able to.
Yep.
You should be able to say, well, you've got this good movie, and I think a great movie, and then after that, Warner's wanted more money. The end. It's just we money milked it.
Well, and I'm barely on Facebook at all. But when I was on Facebook, I was in a bunch of different groups, and no matter what it was that came up, new Star Trek, new Star Wars, whatever it was, anything, those are very, very divisive. I'm trying to think of no matter what it was, bad. I can't think of any bad movies off the top of my head. But what Jupiter Ascending?
Yeah.
If Jupiter Ascending came up, you'd see in the comments well, it's not that bad.
Someone would defend it.
Yeah. When the announcement came for Matrix, the new Matrix movie, unanimous. Just everyone's like, why? Who wants this?
Yeah.
But yeah, No one...
And then it's going to be really weird to see what happens with that now that movie theaters seem to be dead, but that's or dying or whatever. We'll see where that all goes. But
Well,
yeah.
and even if you did like these, no one was like, well, there's more story to tell. There's no more story to tell. Like,
No.
unless, I mean, we talked about like ideas you could do in the universe.
We talked a lot about that and good reboot notions.
Yeah, but not.
But
4.
you don't make a Matrix
No one wants
4.
Matrix 4.
No. Now, could some of those people have been excited or intrigued at least if it was announced, if it had been a reboot that was announced?
I feel like people would still roll their eyes because just reboots. But like if they announced,
But I think
like,
at least you might have seen at least a couple people in that thread be
Yes.
like, "Well, let's see."
yeah, let's not judge too
There's
harshly.
a chance because my argument. Well, maybe not my argument, because I would have a real wait-and-see attitude with reboots, but I could see the argument of, well, yeah, but the way they ended it was really bad. So that is one of those things that might be worth rebooting, because you can do it so much better.
Yeah, but the problem that runs into, that everything runs into, or that a lot of reboots run into with things like that,
Yeah.
yeah, but the first one's good, and that's what you're remaking.
Yeah.
Like-
no, that's true. And hoping for a franchise, but if it flops, then all you have is a lackluster or terrible remake of a good movie. It's like RoboCop. It's like
I think the thing that you would announce that people would be most open to is Matrix 2.
Yeah.
Like if you made Matrix 2, I think that is the one thing where people are like, all right, let's see how you fix it.
Oh, you're saying if you did a Halloween thing with
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in 2020, obviously, you'll just call it Matrix. Like the sequel to the Matrix is Matrix.
That's hilarious. Yeah. And if it had been called Matrix in the first place, the sequel would be The Matrix.
Yes.
We do it both
Yes,
ways.
yes.
Let's go ahead and get into it, because we have 2 hours and 10 minutes that will kind of
Never get back?
change the way time and space works, so that it will actually be 3 hours, even though it was only 2 hours and 10 minutes. So we have more time to kill than it even looks like we do. I'm sure of
And
this.
I just got off work, so I'm gonna try real hard not to fall asleep.
We'll make this conversation as stimulating as humanly possible.
Because there's like a 3-hour mech battle in this 2 hours and 10 minutes.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. It's like the TARDIS. It's small.
There's
It's
like a
larger on the
45-minute
inside.
fight in a train station that means nothing.
No, it changes how time works when you watch this movie. Absolutely. Well, we'll try to make this as stimulating as possible so that Eric can stay awake and so that you guys can also stay awake and
But
possibly.
Monica Bellucci in that red dress, it's only like
continue
30
watching.
seconds. It's nonsense. We'll get to it.
All right, here we go. I know exactly what you're talking about. All right. Everybody make sure that you've got it past menus and everything, however you're watching it, DVD, Blu-ray, HBO Max, if it's currently on HBO Max, and get it to timestamp 0. Get ready to press play when I say now, and I'm just about to do that. Everybody, please press play right now. So I probably told this story last time, but I don't know how to not repeat myself because it's been a while and I won't remember everything that I said last time. And this is actually about this movie. But my wife and I, of course, we weren't married yet. In 2004, when this movie came out, we had been dating for a few months, and I got her into The Matrix. She had not watched those movies at all, and fell in love with that first film. And then we watched Reloaded and Revolutions in the same day. I showed her Reloaded earlier in the day when we went to see this.
And then you went to go see
and then we went to go see this.
This is the only one I saw in theaters.
Yeah. And that was, of course, a mistake because it felt like we'd been watching The Matrix for 19 hours. And because Reloaded actually is long. Mm-hmm. Am I right about that? Isn't it more? Isn't it closer to 220, 230?
I think so.
Or does it also change how time works? But anyway, yeah, those, of course, don't watch great in one sitting like that.
No, because they're contradictory. They don't even watch well back to back.
It's so weird because in one way it is one movie. That's why it was really difficult not to keep talking about this movie also while we were doing Reloaded, because it has that cliffhanger ending. It's got that kind of that Back to the Future thing, that Star Wars thing, where you have a movie and then it's not a true. You always talk about this. It's not a true trilogy because your 2 and 3
are one movie.
You
have one
with
movie
a
and then a
cliffhanger
second
between.
movie that's 2. Yeah.
And in all of these examples, there's a flavor difference between even Infinity War to Endgame is like this, right? Where you can make the argument of sort of one movie, but also there is a flavor difference.
Well, and I always
this movie doesn't feel like Reloaded.
How much of that is just by having a break?
Yeah.
Like, if Infinity War and Endgame were one movie, would I come out of that and go, well, the first half is obviously significantly better than the second half? or would I think of it as one thing and not think in those terms? With this, I am so sure that you would be like, wow, that second half is awful.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Because just as human beings, like the way we like put things in the boxes, like if you give us a dividing point, like even if you made one movie but you released it as like 3 episodes on TV, you would talk about as, well, episode 1 is much better than episode 2. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas if you released it as one movie, no one would speak in those terms.
No, you make a really good point. I still think with Endgame, you'd be like, oh, this had a kind of a strange tonal shift in the middle. But you also might be able to justify it simply with
time skip.
Time skip, and also a really horrendous thing happens in the middle, and so now, like, we've got kind of a bleaker feeling for a minute. And I mean, like, yeah, it doesn't do that all the way through, but just having some big major thing in the middle happen, you could justify it. This would feel like Hancock or something. Where it's like, oh, you took a turn.
Yes, it would. I wanted to mention, but you were telling your story. Do you remember when messing with the, because this is what we have to talk about in this movie. Do you remember when messing with the like studio logos was like
novel?
Yeah, instead of just what's expected. I'm more surprised when I just see a non-messed with studio logo.
You have to do it now. You have the Batman movies to blame. They're the first things that did it, with Warner's in particular.
Well, The Matrix did it.
No, I know, but I'm saying the Batman movies did it first.
Not before The Matrix.
Yeah, before The Matrix. Go back to Batman Forever.
Sorry. I was thinking of the Nolan movies. Yes.
No, I'm saying because
they made it
Warner
Ice.
Brothers, like,
Ice.
Yes,
you're right.
But even 89 has kind of a subtle one, but it's not. It doesn't morph or anything.
We just have to ruin everything. Like, let's just get existential. Like, as a human species, we must push it. We cannot have a little bit of something. We cannot go, this is a cool thing to do every night. It was Angela's staff.
Oh, that's fine. No problem. Good.
We cannot go like, this is a cool thing to do sometime.
He actually knocked something off my shelf. It's fine.
Every time.
Yeah.
After the credit scenes used to be fun.
Yeah.
Now they all have them, and it's a chore.
And when they don't, you're kind of disappointed because you sat around
through the
for
credits,
a while.
and there's nothing here.
So have you ever watched any of the behind the scenes on this movie?
No.
Because it's a lot of just the actors sitting around trying to make sense of everything.
I've never put the disc in a player.
It's everybody talking like it's really deep and philosophical, because that's what The Matrix is supposed to be. And you can tell that they've been working on it for so long, their heads are all swirling in this kind of pseudo-philosophy, where they're just like, I don't really know what I'm making, but, like, it sounds impressive.
That is the commentary for Sucker Punch.
Oh, I bet.
It's just everyone saying, we're pretty sure Zach knows what's happening here. And it's not for me to guess what's actually going on.
So we'll talk about the train station thing in a second when we get back to it, because Eric has a whole thing about the train station, and we haven't gotten there.
It's just pointless.
We haven't gotten there
I also
yet.
don't know where they're going. Like, the computer program's like, we're getting out. Where
is there? You can't go to the real world. But okay, I guess that's all he had. I was going to give you the whole floor for that. But I think so that might be the first true misstep here. The second one, if this isn't the first one, is making a plot point out of recasting the Oracle. So they had a script that they had to change significantly because because the actress who played the Oracle tragically died.
That wouldn't have happened if they shot them together like they should have.
Yeah.
Why back to back?
I don't know what and the thing is, you can't tell me that she had more than a scene or two in this movie. So they could have just shot them at the same time, and then you would have been good. And I'm not saying, and I know I'm saying this in hindsight, I'm not saying they should have anticipated her death.
Because it's not like she died of old age.
Yeah,
it's not like Dumbledore.
And she wasn't sick when they shot Reloaded. I don't think nobody was expecting her to die. I actually don't know what the situation was there, but I know it was a shock to everybody in this production, and everybody was really devastated by it. But if it's me, I'm not going to change the script. I would just recast it. Why do we have to make I don't understand why they had to make a plot point about that.
And what is that?
Wouldn't everyone
script?
Understand? I don't know, and of course I don't know.
Yeah, like how different is that? Is it better? Is that the reason this movie sucks? Bad as it does?
I wouldn't think all by itself, because they worked on all the Zion stuff for 2 years, so all of that was always what it looked like, at least as far as like the battle and stuff goes. So like this, And I'm saying that because a lot of the reason this movie sucks to me is because so much of it takes place in a place I don't care about, and because it's kind of boring, and because we're expected to care about a thing that's not what we're here for. This is not Lord of the Rings, man. Like, I don't care about your big robot Zion fight, especially because it makes the robots so much less interesting than they should be. Okay, so they're all just a whole bunch of squids, and they all show up and try to, like, shouldn't they be more creative than that? I feel like they should be more creative.
That doesn't bother me as much as the fact that the human robots are the most boring. Like, if it was like Pacific Rim, I'd be like, all right, like at least I have something cool to watch. Like they just stand there with Gatling guns moving their arms.
That's true too.
But yeah, so the Oracle just says like they smuggle programs out. But
to where?
Where are they going?
That's a good point.
And why are programs? Okay, this might be like peeking behind the curtain of this universe too much, and like that's always a danger when you like start thinking about things like Darth Vader, like force gripping people across the universe. Like just don't think about it. Like you're think about it too hard. They're computer programs. Like, are they thinking in literal terms? Are they not just numbers?
Yeah, I don't know. No, it gets too literal.
I guess they're having that conversation now, but
yeah, no, it just gets too like ethereal and metaphysical, right? I mean, I already had this question with the Oracle, but it was kind of just interesting to think about. They just take it way too far, and naturally that's what ends up happening with this, right? Is like if we have to make it into a trilogy, we're just going to take everything too far because we don't know. Like it's not character studies. These are archetypes. Like what else are you going to do? And so. What you and we're not gonna, and because we're not gonna do the really interesting thing, which is Matrix within a Matrix, and we're not, we're playing it safe. Like this is not the thing to play it safe, and it just does. It's got to have the obligatory happy ending, and what would have been really interesting,
and not what I think anyone was expecting from the Matrix.
No,
I don't think anyone thought like
our expectations were subverted
go see this movie,
by
it's
it just
gonna have a bow.
Yeah, exactly. By just wrapping everything up okay at the end.
No, I think The Matrix had more carte blanche than almost any other franchise.
It could have done anything.
Maybe the only other one I can think of maybe in recent memory is Nolan's Batman, where like everyone was so trusting, where it was just like I couldn't even begin to predict what will happen in the next one. Like I just like you just see it. Like I right? Like no one.
I don't even know how trusting people were of The Matrix so much as just. What do you do with Matrix sequels? Like, I don't know that we had expectations. I think it was just, well, we like this. Hopefully more of it is cool. I feel like it wasn't like
great,
that.
But like, let's see how the third one is.
But with the second one, I was thinking, here's so many interesting places you could go at the end of it. So, I mean, you're right in that sense, where it's carte blanche in that you do all kinds of crazy cool stuff with it. Well, what I was going to say with it being too ethereal is, so you have a purgatory that's between dimensions, essentially. But the Matrix is a computer program. I just don't understand that. I can't get my head around it.
Are they uploading their minds into robot bodies? Like, I just don't know what's happening.
Have they somehow transcended, like physical space? You know what I mean? Like, and we had this question a little bit with the Oracle, where it's like, is it not all within the confines of a computer program anymore? Did we ascend to like a greater plane of existence or something? Is that what happened? I mean, I don't think I've ever been 10 minutes into a commentary or a podcast and already been on this subject, but is that what's going on? I don't know.
Well, and that conversation...
What is that whole, like, how can the Oracle read the future of things that aren't just programs? We had that whole question.
Yeah. Well, and is the Oracle's future seeing, is it just math? Like, is that what it is? Like, she's just really good with calculations. Like, she can just... Is that what it is? Like, just mathematically we all...
I forgot about that. That was your suggestion. Yeah, but you can't explain this away with math.
No.
This isn't about prediction. This is just...
Well, I can't, but
somehow there's something in the... I think the bigger question is, why is there product placement in the Matrix's Purgatory? I think that's the bigger... Why is Purgatory trying to sell me Powerade? That's what I want to know.
And all of this with this family is so boring. Like, it feels like it was written by M. Night Shyamalan. Like, it's just the most, like... this isn't how humans talk, but like they're computer programs, so it's fine. It's like, no, but it's still boring. I still don't care. He can say he's in love, and like that's great, but like I don't care about these people.
Yeah, and so it's harder to try to get your mind around what it all means, if it means anything, because A, I'm not really trusting it. There was so much psychobabble in the second movie, and B, I don't care because I'm bored with these characters. These actors are trying, but I'm bored. I don't care. I don't know. And it also feels like we're just trying to throw out every philosophy we can think of. Like we haven't talked about karma yet, so let's get that in there. More than it actually really means anything.
But I also hate the karma is just a word, like love, where he said love is just a word. Well, yeah, all words are just
all
words.
Words are just words.
It's about the meaning attached to them,
right?
The significance of it, like
that. Yeah, that doesn't mean that what it represents isn't a thing.
Yeah, like when I tell my girlfriend I love you, and when I tell my father, I love you, those are two different words. Meanings. But they mean different things because you attaching different. So like I don't know.
I don't think he's saying anything.
No,
like that.
No, but I could say, but I think we can say that for almost every conversation in this movie.
Yeah,
is at the end of it, just go, I don't think he's saying anything.
Yeah. And like, if it's just a word, then why are you talking about it?
And like, does the architect have a sense of humor where he's like, okay, so to get out of the Matrix, you go through a train station. So I'm going to make the Guardian look like a homeless guy, like on a subway car in New York 2,000 years ago. Isn't that clever of me? Wait, did he? How did he build this place? Who is he? What significance does he have that he could build an entire program?
I'm gonna assume it's because, I mean, yeah, he's a program, and maybe he was charged with building it. Because remember, all the programs are supposed to have their purpose. Yeah. Maybe that was his purpose. Like, somebody had to build it.
Well, yeah, but he says it as if, like, I don't know.
Also, I want to know what the visual significance and symbolism is of the train station, because this is where it's not this train station, but a train station is where Neo fought Agent Smith at the end of the first movie.
But in the first movie, it's just because it's New York. And, like, that's a thing you visually associate with New York.
Of course, but when you go back to a place that looks exactly like it, you have to assume that there's some correlation. That can't be a coincidence.
Yes.
And I'm saying, why did we go back there? What is the point of that? Do you have a read on that? I don't.
No.
I don't really have a read on it.
Except that trains are a way we travel.
Yeah, well,
that's it.
The first
That's the only
thing
I can think of, anyways.
Right, yeah. But, like, the travel thing wasn't really a symbol or a metaphor the first time. Like, there's got to be a correlation with what we did with the train station the first time. And at first I thought maybe it was because that's where he died, but that's not where he died. I thought maybe his purgatory was where he died. Maybe we're doing something interesting with that. But it's not. He died in that hallway. Right?
Yeah.
So I got nothing. I'm just... And so then it's hard not to look at it as they've run out of location ideas.
Yeah.
Because if we're going to go back there again, there's got to be a cool... there's got to be a cool reason for it. Otherwise, it's going to read as just, we can't think of other places. Well, this looks like a thing we do in The Matrix, let's go here.
Well, in the first movie, very much takes place in New York. Like, or something resembling New York.
Good point.
And so, like, it makes sense. We go to the subway. That's the thing you associate with New York. Aesthetically, that makes sense. Reloaded is clearly in L.A. We go to the freeway. Right?
Yeah.
So, like... And
to be fair, Reloaded is in all kinds of places because we've got the doors that go all over the world.
Well, yes. But when I think of the city, I think of L.A. The city in that.
Absolutely.
And I don't fully remember in this. I don't actually think of a city when I think of this movie at all, but...
Well, that's because we don't spend very much time in The Matrix. The city you think of is Zion. I mean, that's this movie.
But, like, the subway isn't... Like, like the subway doesn't seem connected even aesthetically to the rest of what we're seeing in this movie.
I'm having a hard time, and I'd love to know if somebody has a read on that. I'm kind of, and I have a hard time taking this movie seriously enough to even look at it on that level. You know what I mean? Of like what, what thoughtful, like metaphorical or symbolic or, character significant reasons are we doing things. It ends up just reading like sequelitis. Mm-hmm. And even this scene feels like a thing we've done already.
Yes, it does. Well, I've been feeling that with all of the action already. It's just like, this feels
were already out of ideas.
Yeah.
And I wonder if this would have been better or worse for fans because this was panned and nobody seemed to like it. And I'm wondering if... And I feel bad for... I don't talk about this a lot, but I kind of feel bad for a lot of the people that worked on this movie like, all these animators that killed themselves to get this movie done. And it took, like, two years and... Yeah, and everybody. And it's not well remembered, and it wasn't well liked then. And it was...
This is not a movie that's been reappraised by history.
It was met with disappointment and anger, and I forget where I was going, but... That guy has a BDSM mask for no reason.
Yeah, well, and like this immediately feels like we're just trying to do different costumes.
Yeah. Oh, I know what I was gonna say. Why, like, would it have been better or worse if this movie had come out another 2 years after Reloaded? Because they come out in
Is it the same movie, or do they have more time?
No, it's the exact same movie.
Oh, it's worse.
Is it?
Oh, it's so much more build-up. Just such a more disappointing...
Yeah, of course. That's a good point.
Is it just
But I feel like, at the same time, there was also Matrix fatigue already. Now, maybe it wouldn't have felt like that if this had been good. But I think it was just like, we just sat through a really long, drawn-out movie, and 6 months later, we have to do it again.
Is it just me, and it might just be the contrast? The Orko's bodyguard looks way cooler.
Yeah.
Is that just me, and is it just because he's like everyone else in these movies
are dressed? Here? Did you see Harley Quinn over there?
I did not see Harley Quinn. But is it just me? Like, is it just because everyone else is dressed in black leather that like he just stands out? But I was like, he looks really cool.
Well, and the Merovingian and his wife stand out.
Well, yeah,
because they're wearing so much red.
Mm-hmm.
And I like his outfit a lot in this.
Well, I like that his like club is like black and red. There's green lights everywhere.
And a bunch of green because it's the Matrix. Yeah, I don't know why he commandeered the Riddler's lair from the end of Batman Forever, but...
Well, it's a rave club.
Oh.
Which also might have been where the Riddler's lair was.
But... Yeah, it might have been. It's entirely... I mean, it looked like it was empty. It was deserted, you know.
What I've always thought was weird about this scene...
And it had a deadly water tank in it, but...
Is that they shot these movies back to back. No one had seen Reloaded when this movie was made.
Yeah.
This feels like the obligatory, like, fanboy, not fanboy, but, like, it feels like a callback. Like, well, you all loved him last time. But when you're making this movie, no one's met these two characters.
But you're kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't on that sort of thing. Like, I was going to make that same point. There are a lot of things in this that feel like, oh, you love this from the last one, right? But is it wrong to have confidence in your work like that? To, like, I mean, it's a problem if you ramp up a thing real hard having no idea if anybody cares. But this is a glorified cameo. They're in this one scene. Like,
but they don't need to be here, nor does this scene. That's what's weird about it.
Okay, but I could say that about half this movie.
Well, yes. But it's weird because it feels like this is a scene forced in because we all loved them so much last time. But they didn't know, like, it feels like this is a
just
scene
hoping
because of
that
public
you did,
pressure.
but maybe they like them a lot, and they're hoping that they were... Because the thing is, if they were a huge standout... If Merovingian was a huge standout in Reloaded...
And he was. Most people like him.
And they weren't in this at all, you'd cry foul on it.
Mm-hmm. Well, would I?
Well,
because I don't expect them to show up. They're not really part of the plot.
People going to the movies would have been disappointed, I guess is all I'm saying. And so what I'm saying is, as a filmmaker, as filmmakers, you've got two directors. You're probably trying to anticipate that. But what did people probably like from the last one?
But it's so weird and at odds with itself because that is writing for an audience, and nothing about this movie feels like it's written for an audience. It doesn't feel like they're thinking about people at all.
It's very counterintuitive, yes?
I don't know. I couldn't begin to imagine their headspace. And I respect this, but it hurts these movies. The Wachowskis never do interviews. They never come out and talk about their work, which I respect a lot.
Yeah.
And I wish more filmmakers would do that.
Yeah.
But at the same time...
They hardly ever go on camera. Like, I don't even know what they look like.
I don't think they have a commentary track for any of these films. Like...
No, they don't. Everybody else on the planet does, but not them.
Yeah, and this was the time of the commentaries.
Yes, it was.
Although...
Particularly 0304. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Well, I believe Tarantino doesn't do commentaries for any of his films, and neither does Nolan.
Right.
But, like...
And Nolan does interviews, but not like crazy. Like
no, and they're usually pretty
and I think
fluffy
he's doing,
selling the movies.
Yes, that's what they are.
They're not the deep. This is what I was really thinking, kind of a thing.
This feels.
But I want the Wachowskis to come back and do commentaries and explain what they were thinking.
And you're not saying because that necessarily makes the movies better.
No,
you're not advocating for
academically. I want to know.
Yes, you want to know.
I don't want them to explain it and then have 4 million fanboys go, well, in the commentary they said this. I don't care what they said to make the movie better. I want to know their thought process.
Yeah, just for the sake of the viewers, because I figured we might get comments about that. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah,
that
I don't think they'll fix the movie. I want to know what they were thinking.
You're probably not saying that we need the creators to tell us what we were supposed to take from a film.
No, I just want to know what they were thinking when they made the movie, what kind of headspace they were like, and especially now where like they're away from it and they can really look back and go, yeah, maybe we were too egotistical, or maybe. Although the fact that they're making Matrix 4 makes me think they don't think that, but we'll see.
We'll see if they learned anything.
Yeah.
It was a mistake, I think, to make these back to back. And if they were great, obviously I wouldn't be saying that. I mean, there's a lot of things that I want that I kind of wish sometimes were made that way. I'm not sure why these really needed to be. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes we'll do that so that, like, actors don't, like, age too much between movies and things like that. And sometimes it's because we're basically breaking apart a 5-hour movie into 2 movies. I mean, there's a lot of good reasons to do it, and these were kind of long, but again, it doesn't actually watch like one long movie.
No.
Even though these are 2 movies connected by a cliffhanger. And so that last movie doesn't really have an ending.
Yeah. But, like, even then, like, it feels like they were rushing to finish
they
this.
lose.
So like, they wanted to be done with The Matrix. They knew they had to make more. They couldn't say everything they wanted to say in one movie. So we'll just do them both at once.
Yeah, but then it's like, well, what is it that they were wanting to say with this? Because it feels like it's 2 hours, and I thought a lot longer, 2 hours and 10 minutes of, well, we have to get to an end and make it feel like The Matrix. I mean, that's this movie is just, well, it's The Matrix, and we're getting to the end, and we're trying to make it epic, and it needs to have, that big giant Zion fight that they thought we were all aching to finally see. They really thought that.
Yeah, clearly. Well, but it also, I mean, maybe this is what it is, but it certainly doesn't feel like it. Like, it could also be like, we had this big, massive story that we wanted to tell. We didn't think we were going to get to tell it. When the first movie was so successful, we were like, we can't take a chance, and like now we can't not finish the story. So let's just do it all, and we'll do it back to back. We'll just get out there as quickly as possible.
That shot where he's looking out the window, I really expected him to start talking about noodles again.
But, like, it doesn't feel like this. It's so weird because this movie does not feel like it's in any way, like, it doesn't feel like a producer stepped foot on the set and said, no, you can't do that. But it also doesn't feel like a passion project. It feels cold and distant in the way that the first movie doesn't. It feels like,
it doesn't feel idea-driven, but it's desperate to make you think it is.
Or it's only idea-driven and they're not interested in telling a story. They're just...
Okay, but then they're not communicating the ideas real well. Or maybe I just don't care. Maybe I'm just bored with seeing... Because a lot of this, too, I think it's a misstep, and I think they're trying to be poetic or symmetrical or something, but, like, I think it's also a misstep to keep throwing all the same imagery from the first movie at me in the first 20 minutes.
I agree.
We've been at a train station. We're back in the Oracle's kitchen. They very deliberately put her in a different location in that second movie.
Mm-hmm.
And again, if I could make more heads or tails of this script and I was, really engaged with more of this material, I maybe wouldn't be complaining about that. But it needs to serve the story in some way. I'm not totally sure why we're back here, especially because she's like... Well, I guess she is the same person with a different face. That's why I still don't understand why that had to be a plot point.
Well, I feel like there is this weird idea with trilogies that I do not fully understand, where the first movie is what it is, the second movie is different, and the third movie is where you go back to the first movie. Like, we go back to Tatooine and we have another Death Star. We go back to the Nazis in Last Crusade. Like, the third movie is where you echo the first movie. And I've never understood that thought process.
It's a circle. It's like
But doing it with,
I got a triangle.
But doing it with 3 is weird. Like if you make a 5-movie sequence and the first and last one mirror, that makes sense to me because there's a bunch of stuff in the middle. When it's 1, 2, and 3, it's weird to mirror so quickly. Am I wrong? Like I don't know. That's always been weird.
Well, and let me no. I think you're right. Now I think. Sometimes it's done better than in other things.
Mm-hmm.
I think Back to the Future gets away with it in a really interesting way, because they're constantly repeating themselves on purpose in a tongue-in-cheek kind of way.
Mm-hmm. But 3's a Western. It's completely different from the first one.
Yeah, that's true.
And all the repeated stuff is stuff that's repeated in 2 as well.
Yeah.
It's like gags.
And even some things that are repeated from 2 that 1 didn't have.
Yes.
They even do that.
Yes.
No, so you're right. It doesn't quite do that. But I was going to say, you never see a TV miniseries do it.
No, you never have 3 episodes, and the third episode's an echo of the first episode.
And you know why? It's because you probably saw them in rapid succession. Mm-hmm. They're banking on it having been a while since you saw that first movie, and they're banking on your nostalgia, and they're going like isn't it isn't it fun to get to go back, and it's again it's like it's supposed to be poetry.
Mm-hmm. I just feel like.
But it doesn't feel as poetic if it's within an hour and a half.
No.
Or if you saw it in 3 weeks, because it just feels like... I think and it's funny that I'm using this term with The Matrix. It's not supposed to feel like deja vu.
Mm-hmm. No, it's supposed to feel poetic. The end echoes the beginning. But when you only have 3 movies, it feels like either the third one's redundant or the second one stands out. Like... A lot of people's complaints with Return of the Jedi is it's redundant. We're on Tatooine again, we're Death Star again, we're doing all that. Whereas Indiana Jones, I think people think Temple of Doom stands out. We're like, clearly he's supposed to be fighting Nazis. That's what the first one, the third one. And The Matrix doesn't... I don't know, it's so weird because... I don't understand that instinct, and because they wrote the scripts together... It's weird that those instincts would even show up because they're thinking of these 2 as a piece.
Yeah.
It's weird that in the third piece...
You think you do that all the way through or something.
Yeah. And I guess the second one has that too a little bit, but not like this. This feels like the conclusion of like a 10-year saga where it's like, we're going back to where it all started. It's like, yeah, but...
So all of that was just trailer fodder?
Mm-hmm.
And was in it was in the trailer? I don't think the Oracle is really saying anything all that helpful for Neo here. I think we've sort of forgotten what she's for to a degree. She's become just like exposition head and getting us to the next part of the video game.
She's the cutscene that tells you, yeah.
Yeah, well, before she was about motivation.
Mm-hmm.
She told Neo what he needed to hear. Now she's telling him what the audience needs to know is about to happen, or I don't know. She's explaining things to the audience, but they're pretending like it's cryptic. And then she's also just sending Neo on his way to the next place. Now, I guess she sort of did that in the second movie.
Mm-hmm. Well, she totally did that in the second movie.
So, yeah.
But like, it's this.
But when he says like, "Is it going to end?" and she goes, "One way or another." Like, wow, that's quite the seer, man. Like,
yeah, I could have told you that.
I could have told you that.
But it's, and we do this with her in the second one, but we do it really bad here. This thing that I hate, where when we build things out, we have to make the things that were there more important. I don't necessarily know if I saw Matrix 2 or 3, I would be like, oh, and they're going to go back to the Oracle. She's just a person in that world. I don't need her to be part of the grand cosmic significance of... Like, I don't know if I even think watching just the first movie that they go to her for advice. The way she's treated is, you go to her when you first enter the Matrix and she tells you, like, your path.
Well, and if you think about it, like, the idea of a Greek oracle, that's so much more in line with that notion, right? Like, you're trying to figure out your place in the world.
You don't just keep, like, ringing up the oracle and being like, what do I do now?
Yeah. Now, I will say, I was going to say I didn't get the sense in the first movie that she necessarily even played for our team, but you have, like, the potentials and all of that, so, like, I guess she is on our side, right?
Yeah.
And then the second movie, of course, there's that question for a second of, well, if she's a program, can you trust her? And then she tells Neo, well, you can't necessarily, but that's just the risk you're going to have to take, or whatever. But
both not the first one, both Reloaded and this one.
I never totally understood the potentials. Like, are they potential ones?
I don't know. Or are they potential people to break out?
Oh, I bet that's more what it is.
But Reloaded and this have it, but this has it, I think, more.
Remember they had that Jedi thing where it's like you can't do it unless you're at a young age?
Maybe.
And they're really young.
Well, and you're supposed to break out when you're young
you
have
yeah.
more imagination and yeah.
Yeah.
But both these movies have it. This one has it worse, where it feels like this is simultaneously way overthought, and they didn't think about it nearly enough.
Yeah. Well, and that's the part of the reason that I say that it was a mistake in this case, and I'm saying this in hindsight again, that they made these back-to-back, because they have the same thing that Singer had with Apocalypse after Days of Future Past. They're burnt out, man.
It feels like that. I've never heard, they don't do interviews, but like, I've never heard anybody say that they were, in fact, burnt out.
Maybe they're not.
They feel burnt out.
But,
although Singer also apparently barely directed Apocalypse, so that might not even be what was going on there.
Okay, but it feels like everybody else involved also
Yes.
is, but I forgot about that. That's a good point. We won't get into that.
Yeah. Look it up. Apparently Simon Kinberg directed most of that movie. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, so if you're really wondering how good or terrible Dark Phoenix would have been based on his directing, if you didn't like Apocalypse, then I guess we shouldn't have been all that surprised, but...
Okay, you know what's something that's not a fair criticism, because it's a movie, but I'm going to complain about it anyways.
Okay.
Why does Smith care about his glasses? Why did they change? Why does his glasses get hipper and more trendy too? Why does he care? I don't think he updated his suit.
He's just got style, man.
I also feel like the sunglasses are really nice. Like, trendy's glasses are different in this,
Isn't that just like a superhero costume thing, though? Where, like, we always change it for no reason other than, like, the aesthetic. We just want to change it.
Yeah,
it doesn't have anything to do with the story.
But again, it's only 3 movies.
I'm with you. No, I agree. But I have that sometimes with costumes, where I'm like, why do we change that? I don't... Unless it's an improvement. But that's not an improvement. That's just sunglasses. And... I mean, he's a program. He could probably just, like... I don't know how the programs work, but, well, I'm sorry. They kind of operate in the real... In that world like it's a real world, so he probably can't just, like, think his sunglasses different.
Multiple Smiths was, like, the 2000s Bane, right? Where, like, it was really funny. It wasn't supposed to be.
Yeah.
Everyone made fun of it. It's a little bit hard to imitate, but...
Well, yeah, but that voice isn't... Like, everybody was making fun of the way Smith
Mr.
talks.
Anderson.
Even after the first movie.
Yeah.
Certainly.
But when you put a bunch of them in a room and they're, like, joking around and stuff...
Okay, but now I have
so
this... But now I have this mental picture, Eric, that I can't get out of my head, which is, like, 150 Banes.
Oh.
Is like... Is like that Bane just going around assimilating people?
It is inevitable.
It is me! Me too!
I also feel like this is... I think I talked about this in the last one. It's the...
So is Urkel just really powerful, and that's why wind happens when he assimilates her? Like, why is there wind?
It's harder? I'm not sure.
Okay. Oh, that makes sense.
But, like, Smith feels like
I love this face. This is amazing. This is the best thing he does in the whole
laughs,
movie.
yes.
Yeah. That's pretty messed up. I love that. Because he can see the future, and he knows he wins. I mean, I like that. That's really great.
Smith,
some of the Smith stuff I'm actually kind of okay with.
But isn't it all just performance? Like, is any of it story stuff?
There's a couple of cool ideas with it.
Okay.
I thought of a thing earlier that I've never thought of before that I want to mention in a second about Smith, but I'm sorry, go ahead.
Smith feels like such a... It's when, like, a subplot gets out of hand, where you're, like, reading something, you're like, oh, I didn't realize this is what the whole thing was going to be about. Smith has always felt like that. We're like, It's about the battle between the humans and the machines. And that's all about Smith. I was like, oh, I didn't care that much about... That seems like... I mean, that feels like it's not... That feels like you want to tell a different story than the story you've been telling, and I'm kind of...
That's fair. But we've already got that in 2. I mean, like...
Well, it's building in 2, and then the 3, I don't know...
But from that second movie, it becomes a straight-up comic book supervillain thing.
Yes.
We talked about this with the first one, too, but, like, they really dial that to the 9s and make it feel like the creators of a thing writing their own fan fiction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because if you wrote Matrix fan fiction, the first thing you write is Agent Smith has returned.
Yeah, but also just the idea of like, you know, you've got Jesus and you got the devil. You have the independent guy who just wants to be free, and you have the independent guy who is such a narcissist he needs everyone to be him.
Mm. You know,
and that's not what he is yet in the first one, of course.
That is something that Grant Morrison talks about.
They just want the same thing, and they go after it in different ways.
Mm-hmm. When Grant Morrison talks about how the Matrix ripped off the Invisibles, which apparently is like just not even up for debate. Like if you read the Invisibles, but he's like
I've heard.
He's like, yeah. Because he's not mad about it. He's like, well, it was a really good movie, so like, why do I care?
Yeah. That's cool.
But he was like, I kind of wish they ripped me off for the second and third one because they might have been better. They just fell back on like Judo-Christian symbolism, and that was just boring.
Yeah.
If they kept ripping me off, maybe those movies would have turned out better.
Yeah, and it also just makes it look a lot more pretentious. Like, the first movie takes the risk of looking pretentious and borders on it. But it's... The ideas are so interesting, and visually it's so fresh, or at least it seemed like it if you didn't read any of the stuff that it ripped off, or see any of the stuff that ripped off, that you could kind of give it some of that, or it didn't cross that line. Why is it that so much stuff... And we're not doing nearly as much of it now in the last few years, but why is it that so much stuff that goes to Jesus imagery acts like it's the only thing that ever thought of it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Man of Steel is notorious for it, but I mean, this was doing it too.
Well, Man of Steel's annoying because we already did that.
Yeah.
Like, we already did the Jesus Superman movie.
And it wasn't as blatant as they did it.
Yeah. You know what we didn't talk about in the first movie? I thought about, or the second movie, the last one. That I thought about after we finished talking. We didn't mention that she can act in this, and I don't know what happened to her.
Yeah.
Because like
Niobe?
Yeah.
I think it's because they gave her a leadership role. So I mean, the first movie, Reloaded, she is playing the part of a leader, but she doesn't get scenes where she gets to lead. And in this, it's my ship, I know what I'm doing, I can navigate this thing that nobody else can navigate. Like, she's given material that she's not given in the first movie.
No. I mean in that one, too. In both of these movies...
Oh, I thought you mecht suddenly she can act now.
No, I mean she can act because everything else I've ever seen her in is as tooth-grinding as her as Fish Maloney?
Fish Mooney?
Yeah, Fish Mooney.
I forgot that's who that was.
That's who that is.
Yeah.
And everything else I've ever seen her in is as, like... Just nails on chalkboard. I haven't seen her in much else,
but if the only other thing you'd seen her in was Gotham, I'd say, well, don't weigh her by that. You know what I mean?
But I've never seen her in anything else. Like, it's almost like she disappears in this movie. Everything else I've ever seen her in, I think she's really irritating. I don't know what
I clearly had no idea where you were going with that.
I don't know what because I don't think of the Wachowskis as, like, actors directors, you know, like people talk about like George Lucas isn't an actors director.
I was gonna say I see them as more George Lucas type directors.
Yeah, she's good in this. Like, I have no complaints with her performance. Her character might be a little superfluous, but aren't all of the characters in these movies superfluous in 2 and 3, specifically 3.
The new ones.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But yeah, no, I'm really impressed with her in this movie, given the handful of other things I've seen her in. See, Bane wouldn't be able to get to him. Because he won't have hope, so therefore it can't be taken away from him.
Oh, yeah. And so he wouldn't even be able to, like, assimilate him in the Matrix, because, like, you have to have hope to be assimilated by Bane when he starts taking people over. And we can write a Matrix movie. And then it's really funny because... No, hold on. It's really funny because Smith took over a man named Bane.
It's true. I don't...
He is... No, there's a whole thing there. Smith is Bane. Eric, we landed on this. Smith and Bane are the same.
I don't have the hubris to believe that I could write a good sequel to The Matrix.
Oh, God, me neither.
I could write better sequels than these.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty confident in that.
at least better than this last one. I can at least give a competent writer who might be better at some of the stuff these movies do that I wouldn't be great at a better ending.
Yeah.
Again, why does this have to wrap up in a bow? Why does it feel so Saturday morning cartoon? That Merovingian scene, that is a cartoon scene.
It is.
It's like, give me the Eyes of the Oracle. I'm like, okay, you're just a straight up plot driven thing now.
Yeah. But the last one's like that too. The Reloaded is entirely plot driven.
Yes, but there's fun things in it.
You
I'm not
think
bored
so?
the entire time.
I'm kind of bored, not as bored as this movie.
That's fine.
But
that's totally fine.
It's just a greater level of boring in this.
Okay, but can I throw some facts at you that you can't argue with because they're facts?
Sure.
They go to more places in the second movie that we hadn't been to before. More of it takes place in The Matrix, which is what I came to a Matrix movie to see.
But I wouldn't mind if so much of it didn't take it. Again, it's like Dark Knight Rises. I don't mind that Bruce Wayne only wears the Batman costume for like 10 minutes in that movie. It's that everything that they do with him outside of that costume isn't interesting. If all of this stuff was awesome, I wouldn't mind that much.
Okay,
that it didn't take place in the Matrix.
But
this looks like Inside the Worm in Empire Strikes Back.
Yes, it does. But the problem is, they would have had to have already made everything less drab and those new characters more interesting in that second movie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
he looks like Jake Gyllenhaal.
The biggest problem, and I realize that I'm just fueling your fire because you're saying the second movie is already kind of boring, but when you get to this movie, after what you're stuck with Reloaded, the last thing on earth you do is have most of it take place in Zion. I've been to your Zion. It sucks.
But they don't think it sucks.
Okay.
Maybe they thought we'd love Zion and they wouldn't want to leave.
Well, they clearly thought that. And I apologize, but they were wrong.
They were wrong. They're wrong about most things with these sequels.
And people don't talk about this a whole lot with these movies. When you look at a lot of the actors in this that went on and did other things, it's a really good cast, and we just...
Oh, it is.
We just make them all planks of wood.
Jada Pinkett Smith
notwithstanding, yeah.
No, like most people in these two sequels I have seen in other things, and they're quite good.
And
or they've gone on to have genuine,
and a lot of them
careers.
are TV actors, but good TV actors. Mm-hmm. Again, like Michael from Lost, I like him, and I think he gives a really genuine performance in these. I don't like those stupid moments in Reloaded where he has to scream at the camera and tell the audience what they're supposed to think, or what they're supposed to be feeling. But that's not his fault.
You know who I thought I'd see a lot more of and didn't? The Merovingian.
Yeah.
He was kind of the breakout character in that second one, I feel like.
Yeah, and then he showed up in Catwoman, and then I didn't see him much more after that. He is in Catwoman, yeah.
Is he the husband that you're supposed to think evil, is the bad guy,
yes.
but isn't?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, well, no, because, I don't think they make him really a red herring. They make it pretty evident from close to the beginning of that movie that she's the bad guy, but he is her husband.
The way I remembered it was, they make it pretty evident, but the movie doesn't seem to know that they made it really evident.
Oh, maybe so. I don't know. It's been a while.
Yeah,
I've seen that movie way more times than I should have for the sake of my brain.
I probably saw it around the same time.
Thus is the nature
it came out around this movie,
reviewing superhero movies for a living. I don't know. So what?
It came out around this movie, didn't it?
2004, same year.
Okay, so yeah. So I probably saw these close to each other.
Mm-hmm. Well, am I right? Was this 2004 or was this toward the end of 3?
What year did Reloaded come out?
Reloaded was 2003.
Okay, then this came out in November 2003.
Okay, so they're both the same year then.
I'm pretty sure. My memories could be failing me, but I'm pretty sure it's November 2003.
Yeah, I thought Reloaded came out right as I was getting out of high school because I was working in a movie theater. It wasn't the year before, was it? It wasn't 2002, was it?
No, it definitely wasn't 2002.
Now I'm all thrown off. Okay. I'll just make absolutely certain. But anyways,
so if we're right and this movie comes out in 2003, this is just how bad this movie is.
Yep.
Because I really liked The Matrix.
Yep.
I saw Reloaded. I didn't like that as much, but if you asked me when I saw Reloaded, because it comes out in 2004, so I would be 13. If you asked me at 13...
Again, 2003, but yeah.
Oh, yeah, 2003, sorry. So I was 12. So if you asked me when I was 12, Like, I wouldn't be able to articulate, like, why I didn't like Reloaded as much as the first one.
Yeah, they're both 03. I'm glad we figured that out.
So...
Because a few people in the comments, I'm sure, would have been like, God, know your dates.
So, I liked Reloaded when I saw it. Like I had no, like, this isn't very good. I don't know if I want to see the third one. I was like, this is pretty cool. Let's go see the third one in theaters. I distinctly remember seeing this in theaters and then going and hanging out with some friends and just going, the entire movie is this. Just moving my arms up and down like the mech's shooting. The following year I saw Van Helsing, and it was my favorite movie of all time.
Oh my God.
Like, that's how bad Revolution is.
That's amazing. Yeah. Well, and even folks that saw Reloaded and were disappointed with it, most people probably didn't think that it was completely unsalvageable, or at the very least that it didn't have... Well, some people thought that because some people thought it was broken from the first 5 minutes, which is fair. We had to retcon real hard. We talked about that, of course, with how you had to kind of dumb down Neo's abilities, and the whole reshaping the Matrix thing just isn't there, and all of that. But I still think that if you gave it enough of a chance to go see another one, you probably would have expected something more creative at the very least.
Well, and I was 12, so I wasn't, like, super, like, into the zeitgeist of society. But, like, as I recall, on the internet that I was on, and with, you know, people in my life or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't remember anyone thinking, like, Reloaded sucked.
I don't either.
Like, I don't remember anyone ever saying it was better. But I don't remember them being like, man, they have a lot to clean up in that third one.
Most of the complaints that I remember hearing were visual things.
And too long.
Yeah.
But I complained about this movie being too long, and I was clearly wrong. I mean, I guess I'm not, because...
It feels too long.
Like 70% of the movies in theaters, you know, today, it's too long because it doesn't need to be this long.
Yeah. Well, and it's very easy for a movie to alter a person's perception of time. Like, the human perception of time is a very malleable thing.
Well, I mean, that's literally the theory of relativity.
Yeah. And it's just, as I'm watching this, I mean, it's like motion picture, except that has ideas.
Yeah.
This has ideas. They're just kind of all over the place and thrown at you willy-nilly. And...
Well, but I also... fully and completely understand the ideas in Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
Yeah.
I know what they're telling me. I know what they're exploring.
And they could have done it in, 3 hours less time.
Yeah.
But they're there. And...
But this is so all over the place.
Yeah.
It's just... I feel like you cannot tell a biblical epic and also use video game plotting of point A to point B.
Yeah.
Like, if anything, the problem with these movies should be, like, if you're gonna tell a biblical epic, which is clearly what they're doing with this one.
Yep.
Your complaint should really be, like, that it meanders too much. Because, like, it would be very, like, questy, where, like, it's just walking from place to place and, like, things are happening. Like that should be the complaint is, it's too, there's not enough plot. There's too much plot.
Yeah.
And there's too much just A to B, go here and do this to get the thing to do this. And the second one's like that, too. Like...
Well, the problem is, if the second movie is a video game, it's potentially a good video game.
Yeah.
I mean, like, there's a good variety of, like, different locales and things to go do, and colorful characters that you meet.
Different enemies to fight.
If this is a video game, it's a really boring video game.
Yeah.
So it's not even working on that level.
You ever make it this far in Path of Neo?
No, I didn't. But I've heard that Revolutions is very, very short in that.
Okay. Well, and
that makes sense because of the way he gets taken out in the third act, but...
Well, and I know they changed the ending.
Oh, did they? I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I've never been that far.
All the Smiths pile up on each other and become a giant Smith and you fight them.
Oh, yeah, I knew that. I forgot all about that. I'm going to finally finish that at some point. I've been through it twice, or I've been up to the point that I keep quitting at twice, and I haven't gotten stuck. I just, for whatever reason, keep stopping at the same place. There's this really weird, like... construct area where you fight giant ants. And I have stopped there every time for whatever reason.
Where is that? Like, is that in Reloaded?
It's like halfway through Reloaded, or maybe toward the end of Reloaded.
Okay.
It's Bane! You're gonna pay for that! I think it was Bane!
Man, he didn't care at all, right? Like, he was just like, as she was murdered, I think it's Bane.
Oh, I know. I think
was that good?
I think oh, I see what you're saying. I thought you meant like this captain guy, because I would be worried.
No, I mean the guy on the radio.
This guy just does not seem that concerned for, like, human beings. I don't know that he's got a lot of regard for life. I don't know. I think that guy is maybe a little far gone, Aaron. Nah, it's just his performance.
But he feels like he's just worn down.
Okay. Sure.
I don't feel like he doesn't care. I feel like he's just done with this stuff.
Kind of hardened.
Yeah. Or at least that's how
fair.
he's playing it. I think that's how he's playing it.
Well, and I'm fine with these captain characters that are like the Matrix is in the way. I'm tired of dealing with this, like, mystical nonsense. Mm-hmm. Can we just get down to earth, please?
We have a city. Why don't we just hang out there? Why do we even deal with the Matrix?
Well, because that's kind of, in their minds, the way to get at the machines, I guess. And also that's where, people are who need to be freed. Mm-hmm. There's that. We talked about this last movie, but this really guy's amazing.
Impression, yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, it is a straight up impression, but like I keep forgetting it's a different actor. So that's how good it is. Like, it's not a comedic impression. He's not a stand-up comic. Like, what's that?
How do you cast that?
You just have a bunch of people come in a room and try to talk like Agent Smith. Okay, I'm sorry. How many more times do I have to say Mr. Anderson? Mr. Anderson. A little more from the gut.
Or do you think it's a thing that they like threw in? Like, oh, you do a great Hugo
Yes,
Weaving.
that's what I was going to say. They just found this guy who can do... He came in for another part, and he was like... They're like, okay, we're not going to cast you for this. I think we're going to make up a part where you're just being Agent Smith. So one of the things that I really dislike about this movie, like we talked about last time, is that it's not really mind-bendy.
Mm-hmm.
And
you kind of... The previous one feels like it's setting you up for a mind-bendy.
For something that's just going to really blow your mind. And I think that they think that some of the stuff they do in this is mind-bendy, and it's just confusing and also not that interesting. So they're like, oh, the purgatory thing, you never thought that we'd have a like world between the worlds? Yeah, because I don't understand how that works. I don't get it. Like, of course, why would I think you'd do that? And then I think that that in their minds, it is so out there and crazy to have Agent Smith possess a real person that, like, that's supposed to be enough.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, he's taking over the whole Matrix.
But this feels so... Because this feels so unimportant.
Yeah.
Because, like, this didn't need to be Agent Smith. You could have come up with any obstacle that holds them up. It's unimportant that's Agent Smith to the Agent Smiths in the Matrix that are doing their thing. It's connected but feels unconnected.
Well, it seems like the initial Agent Smith, or like the collective of Agent Smiths in the Matrix, just get lucky that this guy actually is able to get in a room with Neo and try to mess him up. Like, it seems like he's just kind of putting his feelers out and trying different things, where he's like, well, we'll throw a Neo, or we'll throw a Smith in the real world and hope that maybe he can, do something to Neo.
Well, and that's fine, but structurally, like, this was your cliffhanger of the last movie. Like, I feel like he should feel more important.
Well, he kind of is, though. At least, like, he takes away Neo's eyes.
Yeah. But I feel like I don't know. I feel like there could have been any obstacle that did that. This just feels so disconnected.
Right, but you could make the argument that, and I'm with you, but devil's advocate for a minute,
Yeah.
I think the idea is supposed to be that now Smith has gotten to him in both worlds, and he can't, like, he's becoming so ubiquitous he can't get away from him.
Mm-hmm.
And there's probably some kind of, I haven't given this any thought, there's probably supposed to be some kind of symbolic thing to, like, Jesus' devil takes his eyes away. I don't know, like... I mean, you say it could be anything, but, like, it is the main antagonist of the piece making his life way more difficult. Making it a lot harder for him to get to the source. I mean, like he is trying to accomplish something specific, and he does get closer to that even though he dies. That is silly, and I've always thought that was silly. Where, like... Also, I don't understand what his, like, fire vision is.
I think it's because he's part of the Matrix, but then he always should have seen him like that. Like,
yeah,
like the second he saw him, he's like, "Oh, you're Agent Smith." I could see it. But
yeah,
it's...
Well, that was the second he saw him. I mean, like, they're both unconscious at the end of the second movie. It's not like they met.
Okay. Yeah. But I know it's Agent Smith, but it feels inconsequential because, like, I don't know, like, he just doesn't feel connected to the collective in the Matrix. Like, it doesn't feel like it's actually part of that.
They still have the same goals.
Yeah.
I mean, all those Agent Smiths are still Agent Smith in their mind.
Yeah. I don't know.
They're still trying to accomplish the same things. It's just now that he's in the real world, he can do a mission that Smith in the Matrix couldn't do.
But it's not
I
like
don't know
Smith in the Matrix is like...
Yeah.
I took his eyes. Like,
no, he never knows about it. And that's where it feels weird and it's kind of disconnected.
Yeah.
You're right. But when you say it could have been anything, it would just feel like kind of a device to make his life more difficult if just, like, I don't know, boxes fell on his head.
Yeah.
And, like, now he can't see, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I accidentally, fell on a sharp object and gouged my eyes out. Like, what did you want it to be? I don't know.
I don't know. When they crash, I don't know.
Yeah.
So, I complained about this in Reloaded.
Yeah.
That in the first movie, we are told... That actually doesn't look as bad as I was thinking it would look when I came back to this. It doesn't look great, but it doesn't look as bad as I thought it was going to look.
No, I'm with you.
In the first movie, we are given such an interesting situation where they're like, we have no weapons. The only thing that we can do is do this EMP thing.
Yeah.
And then we're like, that's only the Nebuchadnezzar. Every other ship is loaded with guns. This takes it even further, where it's like, not only do all of our ships, except for the Nebuchadnezzar, like, have the capabilities to fight back, we have an army of mech suits that we've also built. Like, the humans sound so helpless in the first movie, and they're not.
I think you're right, but I think you're a little bit off on what the actual problem is. It isn't necessarily that they have the resources they have, although I don't know if I totally buy that they would be able to build all of that. The bigger issue...
And they all look exactly the same. It's scrap metal, but they all look exactly the same.
That's a good point, yeah. Well, look, they only had 2 years to do all that in a computer. But I mean, that, that's hard. And I'm not making fun of it because it is hard. But you're right, it is a little bit silly.
Especially in 2003.
Identical. Yeah, that's true. Well, and when they say, because you look at behind the scenes stuff, when they say you could not have made this until right then, I believe them.
Yes.
And I'd go as far as to say maybe you should have even waited a couple of years. Mm-hmm. To be fair, I mean, they are state of the art at the time, absolutely, but a little ambitious, a little too big for their britches in certain places, like the multiple Smith fight in the second movie. But I think the issue isn't that they have more weapons than we thought they did. I think the issue is we're making the machines way easier to kill than they were.
Well, yeah,
because it was because like you needed an EMP in the first place, and now you can take them out with Gatling guns. You can have like a bazillion of them coming out of a hole and just shoot them all down with bullets.
Well, I
think
it's both.
Okay.
Because in the first movie, it feels like the Matrix is the only place we can fight back and do anything against them. Apparently, we can literally fight them. Why are we even going into the Matrix?
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing that you do with the agents. Mm-hmm. Where it's like in the first movie, like, well, no one has ever, fought an agent and lived. And it seems like just inevitably this always happens with the franchises that go on too long. It's just really sad that it only took 2 and then 3 movies. Mm-hmm. Where it's like, well, now we actually can kind of fight them.
And it's not like there's even a plot device. It's not even like Neo's like, I trained you how to be able to fight them.
Although, am I wrong about that? Are there any other of our heroes that actually fight agents in that second movie? Because, I could be wrong about this.
Do you count the ghost guys as agents?
I don't know. I mean,
because Morpheus definitely does.
Yeah.
He's fighting them with katanas.
Well, actually, doesn't Morpheus fight those agents on
Yes, he does.
Okay.
Yes, he does.
Well, then, okay, so we have retconned that.
Yes.
So we did that there, and then...
you do not just run in the sequels.
And then we did the same thing with the machines, where it was like we were really worried about, like, a couple of them. So in 3 movies, and really just 2, we did the same thing that we did with the Borg in Star Trek. We just keep taking their teeth away the longer we're dealing with them.
And the thing with
because we made them too powerful. Now, is the problem that we made them too powerful in the first place, or that we weren't creative enough?
We weren't creative.
Or is it
absolutely.
6 of 1? Like,
no, I think it's absolutely that we weren't creative enough.
Because you want that to be a massive threat, obviously.
Yes. But
this is supposed to be an underdog story.
Yeah, like, and it doesn't feel like that anymore. It feels like equals. And it felt like equals in the second one. But I think the problem with the squids, because you were like, oh, it's only squids. Like, I don't mind if there's like hundreds of squids that like go around scavenge like they're doing in the first movie. I think it's weird that they're also their war bots.
Yeah.
That there is literally only squid
That's all
robots.
they have. That's what I'm saying. That's all they have?
Yeah.
You would have expected like 4 or 5 kinds of things that come attack the city.
Or at least everything that comes attack the city is one thing, but it's not squids, it's something else. Like, it's things just is specifically... Even if they were all just these like tunnel drilling things, like something designed for warfare. Not just what runs around out on the surface of the earth.
At the very least, we're just not... It's a science fiction franchise that, theoretically is on the level of a Star Wars or a Star Trek, but we don't have a lot of mythology to grab onto.
Yeah. This is it. This is what 12-year-old Eric described this movie as. Was guys doing this.
No one can see you do that.
I know. I keep doing it. But if they're watching the movie along with us, they can see them.
They see what he's doing.
Like, this is my memory of this movie, is guys shaking their arms in CGI robots, shooting other robots.
They can all see what not Bruce Campbell was just now doing in that mech robot suit. Exactly.
Like I very distinctly remember like going to my friends and being like, it was the whole movie. Like, the whole movie was just people standing there shooting guns, and then there was Neo stuff. We'll see how much of this movie is actually that, but like I distinctly remember like feeling like there's no choreography, there's no like flow to the battle, like it is just standing and shooting.
And I think the fact
and
that
I guess this stuff.
Yeah. And the fact that it doesn't feel as underdog as it should, and like they talk a big game about how the odds are so stacked against them and all that, but it just never feels like they're gonna lose. Like we kill off some characters that I don't get enough screen time with, whatever, but like at the end of the day, I feel like that really takes away from a lot of the spirit of the original, which is like anti-establishment people who want to be individuals. Mm-hmm. It comes from that 90s rebellion place.
Well, and it's that...
And we've lost that. We're trying desperately not to lose it. But I feel like we've lost that spirit.
It's
like
that chosen family.
The nirvana of this is gone. Like,
yes. Well, and it in that first movie, there's this, like, it's that chosen family feeling.
Also, this stuff doesn't feel cyberpunk.
No.
But there's that. We're almost
just
in a different genre at this point.
It's just dystopian, post-apocalyptic, like... But I've always been at odds with the cyberpunk thing with the Matrix, because nothing about the Matrix is actually cyberpunk except for aesthetically. Like, it's not about mega corporations and high-tech low... You know what I mean? Like, it's a different thing.
That's fair.
But everyone says it's cyberpunk, so I don't argue with it. Yes.
Yeah, okay.
But it's... This just feels like a battle between equal forces. It doesn't feel like... the
Yeah.
I feel like in the first movie, even though we know Zion exists, it's that chosen family thing that we're really big on in the late 90s, early 2000s. Like, Buffy has it, Firefly has it, like...
Yeah.
We were really big on this idea that, like, you can pick your family. And you're together, like, against the world. And that's the rebellious spirit. When you get to this is just another society in something that was kind of anti-society. It's too big. It's too big to be whatever that first movie was trying to do. Because it doesn't feel free. It doesn't feel, you know, the Matrix is all about, like, getting free of the Matrix to be in yet another man-made governmental...
Well, and to be fair, that was Cypher's point in the first movie. Mm-hmm. Was, well, what is the point of being free? Because I'm really just a slave to something else. Mm-hmm. And I think the point was supposed to be freedom is hard. Mm-hmm. And you have to fight for it. And even if, in order to get there, it's sort of feeling like you're a slave to something else, you got to see the bigger picture because you need structure. And after all, we did create the machines, so there's going to be parallels between us, and it's going to be uncomfortable, and we're going to be hypocritical, and we're going to be contradictory, and we're not going to get it all right. You know what I mean? Like, that was supposed to be the point. It's hard watching these not to feel like the biggest mistake was ever going to Zion.
Mm-hmm. Zion should have just been where we went for the party.
Yeah. The war should have been fought in the Matrix.
Mm-hmm.
And I would make the argument that if you weren't distracted by this stuff, and we knew that there was a war coming, but you made the real conflict actually about, in the main conflict about Agent Smith in the first place, and you started the whole he's taking over the entire Matrix in the second movie, I don't totally know what your third movie would have been, but you could have had the war be in the Matrix, and it might have been interesting if the whole point ended up not being about the machines at all, but it was actually just these two guys. Mm-hmm. Maybe. I don't know. And that's what's... Remember we were talking about how the big problem with the second one is what is different this time? Mm. That's what's different this time.
Yeah.
They never had an Agent Smith before. That's what's different this time.
Yeah.
Because that's the stuff I want to like. I mean, I think it gets really over the top, and again, a little bit Saturday morning cartoon, but the idea of him as the opposite of Neo, where he wants... He wants to be the Borg. He needs the entire universe to look like him. Versus Neo's individuality being about everyone's individuality, is inherently good. It's inherently interesting.
Okay, so you're making the Matrix Revolutions. What instinct compels you to start this battle and not cut for like 20 minutes?
I don't know.
And this battle that has no characters we care about or know. Like, even the closest connection we have is that it's like the girlfriend of the guy that replaced Tank.
Well, Morpheus is there.
But we haven't cut back to Morpheus in a while.
Well, not yet. I mean, we just now cut back to the ship. Like,
yes.
Technically, we have now cut away from the battle to do this thing in the tube, but it still feels like it's part of the same battle.
And it's... I mean, I guess we care about these characters a little bit more, but, like...
They were the new characters that we introduced in the second movie.
Yeah. So
and clearly to get to this stuff.
Yeah. But we just watched an extended period of not a single character we care about fighting robots for a long time. Like, could you imagine if
No, they've lost the forest for the trees in this sequence, because right now it is all about the visual effects.
Could you imagine if, like, in Endgame, we just didn't show any of the superheroes for, like, 10, 15 minutes where we just watched civilians fight Thanos' goons?
But see, a lot of people would have liked that, because then they would have been like, see, there's, like, other people who live in this universe, and...
I guess.
But no, I agree with you, though.
I think it would be interesting to watch. Like, if you were going to this, you needed to actually... Because, like, even this woman, who's, like, kind of main for this set piece, was she even in Reloaded? I don't remember her.
You mean G.I. Jane here?
Yeah. I don't remember her in Reloaded.
No, she's not, to my recollection.
And I know that
she's just here to help out Z.
Yeah, and I only know her as, what's his name? It's not Tank. I don't want to call him Tank.
Michael from Lost.
Yeah. That shot was really goofy where she... but, like, even
she's just here to die, right?
Yeah. But they all are.
Yeah.
But like, the other girl, like, I guess I kind of care about her because she's that guy's girlfriend.
This is totally a video game.
Well, this is the scene everyone made fun of in Attack of the Clones.
Oh, that's
where they're
right.
running on the conveyor belt, right?
Yes.
Like, that's what that is.
It's at least not as over the top as that. But yeah, now she's going to get caught in the bear trap, and now she's dead.
Oh, no. This character that I didn't know before this scene. Okay. Now, it's a 20-minute scene, so I grew to care about them a little bit, but...
So, Eric, I really apologize for doing this, especially at this point in the movie, but I need you to hold the fort for like 2 minutes.
Oh, no.
I'll be right back. I'm very sorry.
Why do they have a Star Wars, like, grid in the background? What does that do in this future?
I had that thought.
Boy, this was the worst time that he could leave. It's just people shooting and doing things, and, like, nothing interesting is happening. I want to know if there's someone that's, like, listening to this that really likes this movie and thinks we're just not taking it nearly seriously enough. That, like... I don't know, man. And, like, Morpheus is in this ship, but, like, when we cut to this ship previously, the last time we cut to this ship, I don't know if we even cut to Morpheus. Like, we know he's in that ship, but I don't even know if we cut to him. And he's the only character here we really care about. Not the hammer. No, you didn't miss anything.
Did I not?
Nope.
I kind of figured that's what would happen.
The girl died.
Did anybody?
But that was before you left.
Oh, G.I. Jane.
That was the only thing that mattered.
Did anybody say? But some things change, or some things never change, Jason.
No.
Some things do change.
But one of them said, "It's the hammer, sir," and I almost made a non-Geekvolution appropriate joke.
The hammer. There's a couple places you could have gone with that, too. You go Nathan Fillion. Or you could go,
that's where my mind immediately goes.
Or you could go, you want me to put the hammer down?
I was also talking... Okay, but here's the problem with all of this. On an emotional level, as the audience, you're here to see Neo. Neo is involved in none of this. And it's not like the Star Wars thing where we cut back and forth, which is what this feels like it was shot to be. It feels like this is supposed to be the end of Return of the Jedi.
Return of the Jedi.
Where we have this, and then we have the mech fight, and then we have the Neo stuff. Like, it feels like it was shot to be that.
So, two huge things about that. The first is, what you're describing is the end of a movie. This is, like, not even the middle.
Yeah.
So there's that, like, how far in are we? This is all unintentionally funny, by the way.
We're over halfway.
Oh, we are over halfway. Wow.
Yeah.
I feel like we just got started.
But this feels like the third act, and it is the second into the third act.
Yes.
But that's because the third act is Neo, and is not this stuff.
Well, and to be fair, it's not exactly broken up into acts like that.
No.
Because it's a little bit more like...
a video game?
Well, and I was going to say kind of, sort of a movie broken up into two, so it's almost like... Although I guess Reloaded does have 3 acts, but this feels more like a 2-act thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, picking up the pieces from Reloaded, and then action scenes.
Right, yeah. That was very profound, how this is structured. But no, you're absolutely right. Now, the second big thing I was going to say is, you say we're here to see Neo. I would argue we're here to see Neo and Morpheus. And when we cut back to Morpheus, we kind of treat him like just another supporting character with the rest of all these people.
Mm-hmm.
We've been talking over this. I don't remember if there's maybe more discussion about this that I'm forgetting, but I don't think there is. He's playing it in the performance, Fishburne, certainly. But you remember how the end of the last movie was the shattering disillusionment, where Morpheus has had his faith broken? And he maybe shouldn't believe in what he was believing in. And, like, he's got that on his face, but we're not talking about it, really.
Nope.
We're not doing a lot with that. Now, to be fair, it's because we immediately go into this big, huge, giant battle. So there's just no time for it.
Okay, so now
But if we were focusing on that, you wouldn't complain about it.
No! And if Neo had, or if Morpheus had something to do, other than sit co-pilot. Okay, so we brought the kid in, right? That we talked about in the first movie, who's not set up nearly well enough to be what he is in this movie.
Wesley Crusher saves the Enterprise, yeah.
Yeah. You know what's more annoying about that? This has to have been going on for at least 15 minutes. He just showed up. He's barely in this movie until this moment. Mm-hmm. We don't build to this. I forgot that he's like not built up to it all, even in this movie.
It's sort of like Snyder not establishing scenes. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, we're not establishing characters in this. It's a lot of... Yeah, that's a really good point you're making. It's a lot of just these characters are functional in the moment for what we wanted to use them for.
We're treating it like it's traditional character arcs. Like, this is, you know, what he's built to. This is very anime, the way he's acting. I'm kind of appreciating that.
Yep.
But, like, the kid is... And this is probably the best bit of all of this. Like, it's kind of evocative.
His death.
Although some of these special effects look worse than they did earlier.
I like the makeup on his face a lot. That always stuck with you. Remember that?
Yeah.
I'm about to get it? That always stuck with me. That huge gash he's got across... That's great.
But...
That always stuck with me.
Like, this is the emotional payoff to an arc this kid didn't have in this movie or the last one. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Is
it an arc, or is it just simply this kid wanted to be useful and he gets to be useful?
But at what twisted cost?
What do you mean? Just that we have to see him on screen?
No,
like, I don't know what you're saying.
I mean, like, he has to watch, like, everyone die.
Oh,
and,
sure.
Like,
yeah.
Like,
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I want to be a hero, but, like, I didn't realize that, like, wars meant people died.
I mean, there's something to that, I guess.
Well, yeah, but we don't spend enough time with him to...
I'm with you.
Like, no, that is an interesting character arc. Or, like, journey to take a character on.
Yeah.
There's not enough of him for me to care that he has that shattering realization. It's that Yoda thing, like, wars not make one great. Like, yeah, I get that. I needed more with this character before he gets that realization.
Is the problem... Because I'm sure that... Well, I don't want to put words in people's mouths. I would guess that the argument from the filmmakers would be, look at all the characters we have to deal with.
But they didn't have to deal with them. And this is less believable than Obadiah Stane and the Ironmonger at the end of Iron Man.
Ooh, that looks really bad. But I would argue that even with as many characters as they threw in, first of all, you don't have to give them all like arcs or major moments necessarily. Have a couple of them that you do some cool stuff with. You know what I mean? Like,
well, and like you can see this done well in the Lord of the Rings movies, where you have your main characters that anchor it, and there's those sub characters that you give a moment or two during the big fights.
But also the big fights, there's a lot of spectacle there. Of course, they also let those movies go on for 5 hours, and so they've got more, real estate. Mm-hmm. But with this, the point I was going to make is, I don't feel like it's that we have a movie populated by too many characters. It's that it's a movie that's not really interested in characters. Mm-hmm. And again, I don't mind that you're telling a story that is about archetypes. Like The Matrix doesn't have fully three-dimensional realized characters. We've talked about this ad nauseum. That's not the issue. The issue is they don't spend a lot of time even putting their characters in front of the camera. Mm-hmm. It's too much about, like, crazy... Or not even crazy stuff. I wish it was crazier.
Yeah.
But, like, when you do have characters talking, they're just mouthpieces for, like, philosophy I don't understand. And it feels like we're wasting a lot of time we could be spending on simple, like you suggested, simple establishing characters, giving me what they're about on a very basic level, and then set up and payoff. Mm-hmm. And we're either putting characters, like, prattling on about, like, whatever philosophy thing you read in a book yesterday, and then just machines flying around and getting shot. There's just too many shots that don't have people in. Can I say that? It's that simple. There's too many shots without people in them.
Mm-hmm. Well, and, like, but, like, again, to go back to Star Wars and, like, Return of the Jedi, like, so the only person we care about in space is Lando. But we're doing cool things with the ships, and we're just given quick glimpses of the people in those ships. We're like, we see a guy, he's like, woohoo! And like 2 minutes later, we see that guy like, oh no! And you're like, okay, I understand what's happening. I have no idea what's happening. It's just people standing around shooting guns at robots. Like, there's not a natural flow to this. And like, I just don't care.
Well, and I don't have any good sense of, like, spatial orientation or anything either. Like where
How
where
close
things
is
are.
this to Zion?
Yeah, where things are. It's right outside, but I don't know specifically how close it is. Like, one thing doesn't feel like it's exactly leading to another. I'm sure
they're cheering, so I guess they won.
It doesn't watch like we are just putting a bunch of random things on screen. It just doesn't look like it's communicating well.
Yeah.
I am convinced that the people who made this movie can track all of that and know exactly what's happening. It does feel like that. It's just I can't. And compare that to something like that great space battle in the two-parter in the second season of Orville, where like everywhere ships are. I know exactly where they're going, why they're going there, what the stakes are, why I'm supposed to care.
Yeah, and that's moving in, is it 3-dimensional or 4-dimensional in space? What is that? It's 3-dimensional.
3-dimensional, yeah.
Yeah, it's moving in 3-dimensional space, which this isn't really. It's just ground and air.
Yeah. Isn't that hard? It's ground and air. And I can track everything in the Lord of the Rings fights as well.
Yes, yes. And that probably made this movie look a lot worse, too.
And had a movie the same year.
Yeah. Oh, Return of the King, I believe.
Yeah.
Which means...
Which is the great one, Ryan?
No. Well, it depends on what you're looking for, but, like, the Battle of Helm's Deep in Two Towers is what everyone talks about. So, like, this is coming out after, like, the greatest, like, siege battle scene in cinematic history, where they have thousands of extras and they're all doing things and, like...
Well, no,
it looks really bad.
Isn't that a year after this?
Lord of the Rings starts 2001, right? Or is it 2002?
I think it's 2. I'm pretty sure...
Okay, so it's the same year as this.
I'm pretty sure 2 Towers...
No, it's the same month as this.
I thought 2 Towers was 04. That's what I'm saying. I thought you were saying that the second one was this year.
Yeah, the second one's 2 Towers.
Oh.
Yeah. So because Lord of the Rings comes out yearly. So it's either 01, 02, 03, or 02, 03, 04.
I was doing the thing I sometimes do with Empire and Return of the Jedi, and I was flipping.
Yeah. No. 2 Towers is Battle of Helm's Deep, which is...
Pardon me.
Which is, you know, what a lot of people consider like one of the greatest cinematic battles.
Yes, of course.
This comes out the same year as that.
Is that
like, you could literally go from that theater to this theater.
Is that the one with like the bridge and all the arrows and?
Yeah, and the riding the elephant down, I think, is in that. And like, yeah.
I don't know those movies real well. I've only seen them a couple times.
But
as a lot of people know, I'm not a big fantasy guy.
But that's clearly what this wants to be, even though that movie isn't out yet. Like, they're going for the same thing, and they just fell on their face in the way that those movies did not in that.
Look, it's not Joss Whedon.
And that's not, like, those kinds of battles are not my thing. I like smaller, more personal battles.
Yeah.
But I know what's happening. I can appreciate it for, like, the artistry behind it. I can't appreciate the artistry behind this. I don't know what's happening.
No, and
the effects don't hold up that well. Matt and I thought they would, but not
first
great.
impression, I was bored.
Yeah.
Like, I'm watching what's supposed to be this, like, grand epic spectacle, and I'm looking at my watch, going, like...
And that was in the time where we were more accepting of these effects
intercut with something happening in the Matrix.
Yes.
And
just a Neo on his trip.
Yeah, but I still think you need to go into the Matrix.
What this really needed was
we should have been counting. I mean, how many minutes is it between the last time we were in the Matrix? And you could say, oh, well, the whole point is supposed to be that while all this is going on, like, in the moment, you don't know this, and so it's risky, and it probably hurts it, and people want to walk out of the theater. But while you're watching all this giant battle happen,
Smith is taking over.
Smith is taking over. So by the time we get back to the Matrix is not what it used to look like. And at the very, very least, I mean, we're gonna hit a reset button at the end with the whole sun thing, and it's gonna be awful. But at the very least, when we get back to the Matrix, they've done what you always wanted, which is at least the Matrix isn't just like the regular world. Nobody's noticed anything. Although it doesn't matter because they're all Smith now.
Yeah.
So that's not fun. You never get to live in a Matrix where people are like, what is all this crazy stuff that's happening?
Now we finally get back to them. And they're also in a ship going through mechanical tunnels.
Yeah, that's the thing is that I think a lot of it is just too much of the same kind of thing on screen.
Yeah.
Like, we're just looking at drab tentacles and beams and...
What you needed to do was, again, the Star Wars thing where it's like Han, Luke, and Leia. Those are your three protagonists. Everyone else is secondary to those three characters. Like, I don't feel like Morpheus is any more or less secondary than anyone else on that ship.
Which
or
is
in that battle.
Nuts, because the second movie didn't feel that way.
Yeah,
Even with all the new characters, it still had that TOS thing. It still felt like it was about this triad.
Yeah. And, like, they're together, but they weren't on screen for however many minutes. And she's gonna die. Like, spoilers.
So I guess just anything machine-wise,
Yes.
but connected to the Matrix, he has fire vision.
Which is why he was able to stop it in the end of the last movie. But it's a thing we never actually do anything with. Just, he can see. Which makes me wonder why take his...
So, that's so much less
I will
interesting than what we all
counter
thought it was.
your... Well, if Smith doesn't take his eyes, who else? Why does it matter if he loses his eyes? They immediately go somewhere where he can see.
That's a good point. Did it really slow him down?
Not at all.
I guess it doesn't matter. That's a good point. And I think we only do that so that we can have the sort of biblical, like, he's blind, but he's, like, really seeing because it's a spiritual thing, you know what I mean? Or, like, I once was blind, but now I see. Like, that's the image, right? That's the metaphor. Like, he actually is blind, but he sees, yeah.
But, like, again, like, that's a fine, like, thing. Like, if this is, like, a small thing, you're like, well, that's why they made it blind. It is the cliffhanger of the last movie.
No, and I don't mean to sound all, like, hoity-toity and, like, if the symbolism is cool, the story's good. That's not what I'm saying. At all.
But, like, if it was a small thing...
I'm just saying, I think in the moment right now, I guess that's probably why they did that, but I forgot it doesn't actually really inhibit him at all. So, no, you're right, it's definitely a problem.
And, like,
it's like they didn't know, they wrote themselves in a corner. They went, we're going to have Smith come into the real world. We have no idea what we're going to do with that.
It feels like, and Reloaded's not a great script, but it feels like they wrote Reloaded, and then we're told you're shooting these movies back to back, and they're like, well, I guess we'll write the next one right now. Like, nothing's happening. Like, I feel like we are an hour and a half into this movie. Nothing's happened.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like you could have cut pieces out of Reloaded and made this one movie.
Yes.
Like, just plot. Like, you could have put these two scripts together and made a 2.5 hour movie. Not enough happens in this movie. And not enough happens in Reloaded either. Reloaded's a little bit better than it because it's the... It sticks to that video game, like, go here, get this, go here, get him. Like, but you can cut that stuff down a lot. Like, I feel like these two movies could easily be one movie.
Yeah.
Or one script. Not, obviously, with the movies that you have. I don't think you could edit those together. But I feel like on the script level, you could be like, well, this isn't two movies,
it's because, and I realize this is kind of what you just said, but I'm going to distill it a little bit. It's because this is all you've decided to do with it. Mm-hmm. You get to this movie, you go, really, that's it?
Yeah.
I mean, that's my review of this movie. That's it? Mm-hmm. Because, again, broken record, if it's Matrix within a Matrix, that is a whole movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just that premise. I don't even care what you do with it. You can't possibly do that in Reloaded. Mm-hmm. With everything that's already in that movie, you can't possibly do that. You could make that reveal, but you have to tell a story about it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and, like, all of this is, like, spectacle, which... Not a thing I got from the first Matrix. Or the second, like, all the spectacle in the first two Matrixes are physical combat, they're action scenes. Yeah. Matrix-I. Making the sequels was an act of Matrix-side.
Oh.
No, like, I didn't see the first two movies and go, you know what I really want? Is like a giant CGI battle.
Yeah.
Because what the Matrix was sold on was like the Hong Kong kind of a thing. It's gunfights and kung fu.
Visually, you're in the wrong genre now.
Yeah. This isn't what anyone wanted from the Matrix.
No, it's like they just completely underestimated or didn't understand expectations. And that's not, again, that's not to say that like you have to just give people whatever they want.
But they reinforced it with the second movie,
but
which
like,
is all just that ramped up.
Yeah, it's as if they thought that, or to them, all roads are leading here, and they at the very least didn't communicate that.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't feel like that. I mean, they're talking about a big battle and stuff, but it didn't feel like that would be like the movie.
No, if ever,
it's gonna be your whole movie.
Or it's like a thing you don't see, right? You just talk about like how, this genuinely works.
Yeah.
Because, like, we've just done nothing but be in, like, metal tunnels for 2 hours.
Yeah, and so when they go up into the sky...
You're like, oh, there's color!
Yeah, the juxtaposition is nuts.
Doesn't look great, but there's color.
I mean, I think it's really funny that above the scorched sky is just the DreamWorks logo, but, yeah. But in the daytime.
And am I
but
supposed
it looks
to
like
take
DreamWorks.
from that, like, they can take the Earth back, like, the atmosphere has, in fact, repaired itself, and... Because I feel like this much smog... I don't care how high up you go. Like the Earth,
I thought you were
going to
have to go all the way to space. I don't totally understand that.
That's an emotional beat that actually works.
No,
maybe the only emotional beat that works in this movie.
It's definitely. If there are 3, it is in the top 3 or tops the 3. What it really means, Eric, is if they are able to take the Earth back, the future of the Matrix looks like the Jetsons.
Mm-hmm. This
they have to have a Sky City.
So cheap to me, and feels like Trinity was not important at all. Like,
she just had to pilot a ship. Because when you say it didn't matter that he got his eyes gouged out. I mean, only because he's not alone. If he was by himself, he couldn't have gotten there.
Yeah, but he's not.
I mean, there's that. Yeah,
like.
And this still isn't going to matter because he's where he needs to be already.
Yeah.
So, like, and so this watch is like...
And now we don't need Trinity here, so
we can kill her off. Yeah. It feels like a big contrivance.
It makes her not... Like, again, like in the last movie, it was like the 3 of them. It was Morpheus, Neo, and Trinity. This doesn't feel like an emotionally earned, like we lost one of the big 3. It feels like we don't need her anymore.
You know what? It's so nuts. I'm not even... Does she actually die in the scene?
Yeah.
Like, dies?
Yeah, she's dead.
Is she?
I thought so.
Wow. I'm not even remembering whether she makes it or not. That's how much I don't care about Trinity, apparently. I don't even remember if she makes it or not.
I mean, she's got a metal thing through her stomach.
Well, she's come back from worse.
Not in the real world. Look at her.
No, I know.
She'll be fine. Walk it off.
No, it's so weird. It's like, when I'm watching this scene, I know, of course, she's got to be dead, but...
That's why it was weird that both of them are coming back for the Matrix 4.
Yeah.
Like, at least he's, like, the one, and, like,
yeah, how does that
rebirthed
How does that work? Yeah. Maybe she's a program in the new Matrix.
Maybe they were always programs, and it's finally a Matrix within a Matrix.
I don't even know if I'd be okay with that now. Like, I don't know if...
I would be like, yeah, it's a little too late, guys.
Yeah, well, and it would feel like they just listened to fans, where it's like, oh, well, you didn't really...
I sat through 2
really
boring movies. Well, a boring movie and a really boring movie to get to what you should have done in the first place.
Yeah. No, it's so weird. Like, yeah, intellectually, I know she's got to be dead, but for some reason, I sort of forgot that. Maybe it's because she got cast for Matrix 4, and I just wasn't putting that together. Because when I heard that, the first thing I thought wasn't she's dead, it's really, you gotta bring everybody back? Okay. But I guess I should have.
Oh, that's right, and this is like a forever death scene. Like, it just takes so long. Just die already.
Oh, so this is the scene they're making fun of at the end of Deadpool 2?
Yes.
Or these kinds of scenes?
Yes. But this is one of the worst offenders. Like... That's another thing I remember from seeing this in theaters was like, oh my god, she's still talking.
Well, yeah, because she's just not really talking about anything. Like, these aren't characters with, like, unique personality traits and stuff.
No, but we're treating them like they are.
So when she's talking, yeah, it's just generalities, and it's like, I was grateful for every moment with you. Like, I don't know, is this that far away from...
But I've never brought them together in the first
Exactly.
place. That's
what I was going to say is this that far away from the way we wrote the Anakin-Padme relationship? Like, is it that far away? It's not sappy like that, but it is platitudes like that. I mean, in this scene.
Yeah.
I don't mean the whole way through. I mean right now.
I mean, I never buy their chemistry.
One more chance to say what I really wanted to say. Like, if you just start talking like you're reading a Harlequin romance novel, this is so much worse than...
And if you're going to do that...
Than I remembered it. Like, oh my god.
Well, and if you're going to do that...
Kiss me once more? What kind of dialogue is this?
You get one line like that. You don't get 6 of them. Back to back.
You don't get a soliloquy.
Yeah. And that's what this is. It is a soliloquy. You know, I feel like we're real hard in soliloquies in movies. Like, it's always like, it's like a soliloquy. Like, you throw it on stage, everyone's fine with it. You put it in a movie, it's a negative.
No, that's because the stage... We can go into this if you want to. That's because the stage is inherently heightened.
That's true. And
film very often wants to relay something akin to reality. Not always. Very often it is heightened. But you have to do that intentionally enough that I know that you're doing what stage plays are generally doing.
Well, we get one in Ang Lee's Hulk. You remember when the dad's just there in the chair and he's talking to no one? And then that is a soliloquy.
And there's that great bit where he just throws like a 3-year-old temper tantrum and he just starts going rah, 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 rah.
Remember that? The chains.
Yeah. And depending on what crowd you saw it with in the theater, everybody was either confused or laughing hysterically.
I feel like that has changed. I feel like if you release that movie now, everyone laughs. Because we've been conditioned to laugh at things like that.
Yeah, that's right.
Anytime anyone overacts, it has to be funny.
No, it used to be sometimes weird, and now it's just awkward humor. Yeah, we've been conditioned.
Well, and even if it's not trying to be funny, like everyone is conditioned to.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Is they'll think it's awkward humor.
Nick Cage has it the worst. When he goes over the top at all, theater erupts. Like, I was like, but he's not... Like, this isn't Nick Cage. Like, sometimes he's going bigger.
Yeah.
He should be allowed to do that, but he can't. If Nick Cage goes bigger at all...
I feel like Sam Jackson still can. To some degree.
Yeah.
Oh, look,
That's because he goes bigger when he's being tough.
There are some robots. There's some different robots. They have bugs.
Yeah.
They have bugs that crawl around. Not just squids. See, they weren't going to be in the... What are those for? Yeah. What are they for?
What do any of these robots do? It's the Terminator question. We're like, I don't know what the Terminators do once the humans are dead. I don't know what these machines do once the humans are dead. Yep. I guess they just do this, because they've been using the humans as batteries.
Yeah.
This is what they want? This is it?
So wait, are there human batteries in this place?
It sure looks like it.
That's what it looks like. But why? This is supposed to be the source. Why does it also have that? Like, maybe that's not what those red balls are, but it sure looks like it.
It's the same design.
And you had some...
That's where the rich people go.
That's the penthouse.
Yeah. They're not any happier.
But you had some robots walking around with what looked like the red ball things. But maybe that was just their power source. I could not tell. Because it was all in, like, soft focus. I couldn't tell.
Oh, it is a giant baby face. For years, I've heard people describe it as baby face.
Because it is.
And I could never remember how much of it is a giant baby face. Hey, this is cool and all. I haven't thought about Agent Smith in like an hour. I forgot that was happening.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We couldn't have come back to that a couple times. I mean, I wouldn't want scenes just obligatorily so
just
that
him, like,
we remember.
People.
Yeah, yeah.
Just walking down the street, finger gunning.
I would want them to actually reveal something, of course, but
and they want it to be
we should
a
be
reveal,
back
right?
That.
Like we get to the Matrix, like, oh god.
Yeah, but you didn't.
But Smith needs to be a more looming present threat, which is like I guess
how you could do that. Don't friggin' kill Bane.
Yeah, and
don't kill him that early.
And also, don't have a 40-minute battle in the middle of your movie that is completely disconnected from the antagonist. Like,
okay, can I say
Smith should incite that battle, right?
Yes.
Or Bane. Bane should incite that
battle.
That's
what I was about to say. Because I was about to say this is a crazy idea. Maybe it's not. I don't know. Let me ask you this: what if for some reason, the machines were kind of a threat to Smith at the same time as they are Zion. What I mean is, aren't they kind of? Well, and I mean,
he
he's
just
a threat
doesn't
to
like
them.
them. He's just like upset he's just upset at his dad. Right?
So what if he, as Bane, tried to help them destroy the machines, and like maybe the plot is he knows something about them they don't because he lives in the Matrix, he's in their world, and so he could have some kind of code or something that could like take them out faster, or some big password or something, you know, right? Like something, and then the big reveal for Neo after that is, Agent Smith, sucker, and then he stabs him, and
yeah, something.
I mean, that doesn't sound great, but it's better.
Yeah,
right?
No,
is that better?
Smith needs to be behind the actual battle. He needs to have done things that made the humans and the robots actually go to physical war.
Ooh, and then you know what he does? Then you know what it is? Instead of Neo going to babyface God, you know what he does? So he helps Neo fight the machines. And like Neo's actually in all that, right? Mm-hmm. He actually does get to fight all that. Mm-hmm. And then he jacks him in. Mm-hmm. Like humans, but like Bane jacks him into the Matrix, so that Smith can then take him over.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
That could be a really cool reveal where it's like, yeah, you're jacked in, sucker, and then he sends him back to the Matrix.
Do you kind of wish that Smith somehow assimilated Babyface and it was Hugo Weaving's giant face?
Yes, that'd be great. Then you get in that Borg voice with like the collective voice, Mr. Anderson, like the big baby face. I didn't think there was any remotely fixing this movie, but you actually could make some of what they're doing even better.
But
even though I don't like it.
It's a completely different movie, right? Well, actually,
it's not.
Actually,
because
all you have to do,
he has to go back to the Matrix, and then after this, you can still come up with some way for him to do the Jesus sacrifice thing.
You take the first third of this movie, where they're just getting him from the train station, and you use that to set up Smith facilitating the war. Like, that's all you have to do is, you have to completely alter the first third of this movie.
Yeah.
That's fine, because none of that means anything.
But it could have been a Neo-Smith team-up without Neo realizing it. Mm-hmm. That could have been sort of interesting.
Like, you act a lot like like Agent Smith. Why do you keep calling me Mr. Anderson?
Yeah, but, like, I feel like he could even get away with acting like that up to some degree.
Oh, yes.
Just because Neo would never have guessed that this could even happen. Right?
Yeah.
Would we be watching him going, you idiot, it's Smith? Like, I don't know.
I mean, nothing like that.
It took him a while in that scene for him to pick up on it while he's acting very clearly like Smith, and I don't really have a problem with that. I don't know.
I do want to give props to the whole babyface sequence as being like gonzo, like Italian sci-fi. Like, it feels very heavy metal, like the magazine, not the music. Like, it feels very like, you've never seen this in an American movie before. I'm like, yeah, no, I haven't. It's weird.
So, can I tell you about the Smith thing that I never really thought about before that came to me?
That is a mistake. All the dust trailing behind him like Bugs Bunny.
See, I told you it's a cartoon.
It is. No, it's totally a cartoon.
It's a cartoon.
But like sometimes it's Dragon Ball Z, and sometimes it's Akira, but sometimes it's Looney Tunes.
So, do you remember the speech that Smith has in the first movie?
Of course.
Where he
It's a good speech.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, where he takes his thing out, and he's like, the first Matrix was perfect, and you couldn't accept it because you're fundamentally diseased.
No. Okay, I think this is an earlier speech, or maybe part of the whatever. It doesn't matter.
Okay,
he's got the speech to Morpheus about how
that's different. Yes.
It's different about how humans aren't really mammals. Do you remember what he says?
Or maybe
humans aren't really mammals. Do you remember what he says?
Because
he says, what are they? What are they instead of mammals? Do you remember?
No.
He says they are parasites.
Yes. I remember that now.
What is Smith now?
He's a parasite.
He's a parasite.
He's become what he hates most.
Never had that thought before. And I don't know if that's intentional, but like he's taken everybody over. He's a parasite.
I feel like there's parts of this movie, this is one of them, but there was also some sequences earlier, where they more accurately do the Hong Kong Kung Fu thing. Like, some of the cinematography and the locations look more authentic than they do in the previous two movies.
Oh, yeah.
But I also feel like that makes it makes the Matrix feel less distinct. Where, like, the Matrix was a lot of that Hong Kong stuff.
But it had its own style, and it was just borrowing from it as
and a
opposed
different
to just
setting.
straight up doing it.
Whereas here, like, a lot of these locations, I'm like, yeah, I saw this in a Jackie Chan movie. Yeah, I saw this in a John Woo movie.
Because now we're just in a city.
Mm-hmm. Well, and just like the way some of the locations are, and like, I don't know. It's...
No, I totally see what you're saying, though.
Where I'm like, oh, this is more authentic, but at the same time, do I want it to be more authentic?
Yeah.
And this is the moment in theaters at 12 years old, I was like, oh, yeah, we can totally do a Dragon Ball Z movie now. Like this can happen. And you know what? It looks a lot better than the Smith fight in the last one.
It does.
The Many Smiths fight, like...
Some of it just goes too far and is hokey, not because it looks bad, but because it's just poor choices.
Mm-hmm.
That slow motion rain punch they're about to do in the face is the worst.
But doesn't this also feel like almost out of nowhere?
Yeah.
Where, like, I feel like sitting in the audience, I was in the audience, but, like, I feel like sitting in the audience, you're like, wait, what's happening? Why are we doing this? I thought we won the war like 20 minutes ago. What's going on?
Well, and then there's the shockwave. It's exactly like... It is a cartoon. It's just a lot of different kinds of cartoons. We just went from Bugs Bunny to Dragon Ball Z to, I mean, it's so many different cartoons.
And Smith is a different character in this movie, right? Like, he's more self-aware.
I feel like we've been ramping to this he's getting to that place. Although he's going to have a really out-of-character speech toward the end of this, and I just don't know about the performance of it.
Like, the Smith that came back is a very different person than the Smith in the first movie, right?
Oh, well, yeah, no, of course.
Like, I wouldn't describe that character
but I feel like that's on purpose.
Eccentric.
Yeah.
Or...
But that's on purpose because he has power now.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that.
Okay. Like, that Smith in the first movie would never maniacally laugh like the Smith in this movie maniacally laughed.
No, definitely not. But that's a thing that Neo doesn't do. I don't mean the maniacal laughter thing. Why would he ever do that? But when Neo becomes...
I've ever seen Keanu Reeves maniacally laugh, and I kind of need that.
Well, the couple times I've seen him play villains, he just can't do it.
He's pretty good in Man Tai Chi, which he also directed.
Oh, okay.
Although he has this one line, which is, "You owe me a life," which he clearly thought was awesome, because he says it like 7 times in one fight.
This is the speech. Something about the way he delivers this is really off to me. And some of it is the writing, of course.
And why isn't survival enough? Like, survival is something. You're fighting for something other than your survival. Survival's a good reason to fight for something. It's the main reason humans fought for things for thousands of years.
Right, but he's also got this thing where humans are, trying to justify existence. Like, you think you're more than animals, but I don't think you are. Right? Like, it's got to be more than survival, or what is the point of living? Like, just to live, and then you die, and then so what? Like...
We said only a human mind can invent something as insipid as love. Okay, first of all, we know love exists in the animal kingdom.
Oh.
And 2, we have a whole speech with the programs about how love is a word, and it can be experienced by anyone.
That's true.
Is that intentionally reflecting?
I have no idea. Maybe so. Where, like, the guy in... the train station...
Does he only want to do that because humans do that?
Like, understands, like, the concept of love on a level that Smith doesn't get it? Like, is that what it is? I don't know. Some of the problem might just be communication. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I hate that. It's the worst.
But, like, it also looks like PS4 Spider-Man. Like, it's really good for the time, but it doesn't look real.
Like it's happening?
Yes. Like if you couldn't have run that on the PS2.
But sure. So it's technically impressive, but it's out of place.
Yeah, it still looks bad.
Why have we never done anything like that in the Matrix before this? Like, that's not what it uses slow motion for. It's never done that.
Well, but a lot of that fight was like that.
Yeah. And then he's gonna say, "I do it because I choose to." Because the whole point is apparently arbitrary choice.
Or just it, I do it because I choose to, does not answer the question of why.
Right.
Why do you choose to? Which is kind of the question of the entire trilogy. And the apparent answer to why do you choose to is because I choose to.
Yeah.
Genius.
Which is interesting in a couple of sequels that also don't exactly justify their own existence and really only exist to make money.
Yeah, why did you make the sequels to The Matrix?
Because I choose to. Yeah, exactly. Although, there's more of a reason. It's profit motive.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, but they didn't have to make sequels to The Matrix. They could have immediately gone and made something else and been like from the creators of The Matrix.
Well, you say that, but that they wouldn't. Well, a couple things. So first of all, just because it has their names, the name of The Matrix on it, doesn't mean that it's going to be successful. They can bank, and Warner's can bank harder on, brand recognition of a thing that nobody expected to be successful. And they're thinking they got the next Star Wars on their hands. That's why they're making more. Mm-hmm. But also, remember that whole thing about how the first Matrix movie was probably finished by some other people that weren't the Wachowskis?
Yeah, which I've never been able to find sources for. I just know it was a thing.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that happened.
But then why would they give them free reign on these movies?
Yeah. I wonder if the studio didn't understand how that movie got made.
Yeah. Well, and success and success changes everything in Hollywood.
Yes, exactly.
Their names are on it, therefore, they did it. It's like the guys that wrote Iron Man. We know Iron Man was mostly improv, but you keep seeing the writers of Iron Man are attached to.
It's like how the president gets credit for anything good that happens in the 4 years.
Yes.
It's exactly that.
Yep. Even if it was something that the guy before him set up, the current president will always get the credit for, or what happened with Warner Brothers and DC and the whole Jeff Johns thing, where
is it over? Now, I can't say all this stuff with Smith isn't entertaining, but part of the reason that it's so so entertaining is because the last hour hasn't been.
Mm-hmm. Well, and this is the bonkers stuff. It's not mind-bending, but you're this is where we were going the whole time?
What? And I don't fully understand what's happening here, but it's not fair. That delivery I love. It's great.
Why is that happening in the real world?
I don't know.
And
so is it just the machines gave him something that let him do that? I just don't know what's happening in that.
It's supposed to be. I want to say I've heard some kind of explanation for this. It's some kind of mathematical dividing by zero kind of a thing where the one times the millions of Smiths equals each other. It's something like that. Where all of the Smiths equal one Neo, so
But why did he have to go to the source?
I don't know. Why couldn't he just go to the
But he had to go to the source.
Yeah.
That clearly had he just made a deal with
Baby
Godface.
Is it only Nixon can go to China? Only
Baby
Neo
Godface just said it is done. He did something. The machines did something.
No, Neo went to the machines and said, "I will take care of Smith if you agree to my terms or whatever."
So was the idea that was there was
it's
no
a
other
peace mission?
So was there just no other place he could jack into the Matrix?
But he has to go see Babyface.
Okay.
He has to make it. He was already gonna fight Smith, but he has to go make a deal with the machines and say, "I'm gonna fight Smith and leave the humans alone."
Oh, and then you guys leave the humans alone.
Yeah, I also don't understand how this results in peace and harmony.
Okay.
And we'll see the dawning of a new day in the Matrix, and I don't understand why.
So basically, what you're saying is, now, did he have to take over the entire Matrix before that would happen, or could he have? If Neo had just let himself get assimilated in the multiple Smith fight in the second movie, would the whole franchise have been over?
No.
Okay.
I think.
Why?
Well, I don't know. But I think...
what were the stakes? Were the stakes ever he could have taken over Neo and taken over the one? Could it have happened?
Maybe. Because I get the impression that like because I kind of you didn't earn this moment, man. This is Morpheus's moment.
No.
You know, not surprised he wasn't in anything that I ever saw again. But no, I feel like it's like something
and
destiny.
Even if you're that
like,
stupid kid going up there and saying that, isn't your line "We're still here"?
Yeah.
Isn't that your line? I'm sorry.
Yeah, we are still here. But I want to say it's like a bull, like, it doesn't matter whether Smith could have assimilated Neo at that point, because he wasn't going to. He was always going to assimilate him. Oh,
because now we've got the whole destiny thing, yeah.
Maybe. I don't know.
Okay. You know, I'm really, really excited that we've finally done this.
So you don't ever have to think about it? Well, no, you will. You'll keep watching these.
Yeah, but I don't have to...
Pay attention and think about it?
I don't have to dread doing a commentary about it.
Why do you watch this one? Like, when you rewatch the Matrix
because
movies...
it got made, and because the second... No, it's because the second movie ends on a cliffhanger. It feels really funky to watch a cliffhanger and go, well, they're bad after that, so I'm not going to watch it. Like, even though it is bad, I have such a hard time with that.
Dark Knight ends on a cliffhanger, kind of.
Dark Knight ends on a cliffhanger that is resolved 8 years later. It's just not the same thing.
Okay, that's fair.
And I'd rather go back to Rises than this.
Well, yes, of course.
Like, by a lot.
I'd rather go back to Rises than a lot of movies that came out in the past 5 years. That shocked me. I'd rather watch that in Suicide Squad or BVS.
It really kind of adjusts, or fucking Birds of Prey, or like, it really adjusts your...
I wish he was recast too, just for no reason.
He should walk out and in his deadpan have her line from earlier where he's like, I still don't recognize myself in the mirror. I was absolutely appalled by this scene in the theater. I just couldn't even get my mind around it. Well, I was like, this is the most dull, lame, pathetic possible way to end this movie. Like, what are you doing?
Well, and like, again, it sets her up as like, it sets these two up as like the cosmic balance, which I never thought of the Oracle before that. Like, she is the representation. You never read The Stand or saw The Stand, did you?
Well, but to be fair, they set that up at the end of 2 when they say, if I am the father of the Matrix, she is the mother. Yeah. So, I mean, 2 has already made her way more important and powerful and be all end all than she seemed to be in 1. So you can't put that on this. That's on both of these.
Sequels, yeah. And she's there, and she was escaping, and what does that mean? Well, like, is this the not Matrix that they were going to from the... Remember they were on the train?
Yeah.
It was like we made a deal for our daughter to get free.
I mean, it's like we can remake the Matrix in our image, but did you have to get there first? Or did we hit a reset button where just everybody's back now?
Or was she safe because she wasn't in the Matrix? Was she the only person that wasn't assimilated? But who cares?
Now, because everybody they got... I mean, the Oracle's back.
Well, and looking at this now... Boy, that does feel like a sequel hook, right? Yeah. Will we ever see him again? I believe so. Someday. It does feel like they're telling us, hey, guys, we're going to come back and make another one at some point.
You think?
Kind of, right?
I think it's more like... Well...
I also think it's disingenuous to end the movie on them and not on the humans that are alive. Like, those scenes should be reversed.
And we just have no sense of what the Matrix is going to look like after that. There's a couple different ways to look at that. I can see why you would see it as sort of sequel hooky. I see it more as you just had Jesus make his epic sacrifice, so you're saying that he will rise again. And in that sense, it wouldn't be sequel bait, because in Christian mythology, that still hasn't happened yet.
But also...
You see what I'm saying?
But also... The architect just said, like, we'll see how long this piece lasts. Like, that also feels like you're like, this is only temporary. We will come back to this universe.
And then we're still left with your question from 2, which is, what's different this time?
Yeah. And what, like, I don't know. I got nothing, man.
Yeah. Nah, it was a giant waste of time, but...
We did it.
We did it, yeah. I hope we made that as enjoyable as we could. I'm surprised there wasn't more dead air.
Yeah.
I mean... Was it just our desperation to
I do
make
think a
it
lot
go
of it
faster?
was us just saying the same thing over and over again. We're just like, yeah, this is bad, and like, why did they do this? And what does this mean? And
well, I think we at least mixed up the vocabulary a little bit.
Yes. But yeah, I really think, like, more so than even I remember, there's not enough here to be a movie. Like,
yeah,
this feels really stretched. Like,
which again is nuts because that second movie is friggin' jam-packed with stuff. And I mean, I know that
at least they're different.
You say it's kind of boring.
Yeah, but at least it's like different action scene. Like, this was one action scene.
Yeah. And so drab looking, like.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm not disagreeing that the second one's not better. It absolutely is.
I'm also not saying, isn't it great? Like. Because I had the worst watch I've ever had of that with our commentary.
I would rather watch the second one than watch this one, but that's not.
But that's
I will probably never watch the second one again.
But that's like, yeah, for you especially, that's like saying you'd rather get punched in the face than put your head in a bowl of scalding water.
Yeah, like, but I'm also not like unless I was even then, like. Like, I would sit down with someone and watch the Dark Knight trilogy. And be like, well, I mean, there is a third one, we should watch it. I would never make someone watch 2 and 3 of The Matrix. Like, I would be like, yo, you haven't seen The Matrix? Let's watch The Matrix.
Well, part of that, too, is... It's, like we said earlier, it's pretty unanimous that 3 is just, like a really bad movie.
Yeah, that's like a 50-50 chance you might like Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people that still really like that movie. And so even if you and I still have giant issues with it, you can't be sure if you sit somebody down in front of that, they won't have a totally different experience.
And, like, I feel like
your chances of somebody going, what are you talking about, this is great, pretty low.
Yeah. Like, I feel like society has kind of settled on Rises is certainly the weakest. Like even if I think it's good, it's definitely the weakest of the trilogy. And
like a pretty big drop down,
yeah,
for even a lot of people that like it. I'm hearing more of that where it's like, yeah, I mean, it was, but I still talk to people that think that it's as good as the other two. Like,
well, that's crazy. But
I'm saying there's still some of that.
This didn't like settle like higher than it started. It wasn't like this is. It doesn't even have the prequels thing where like people are like, yeah, but there's good stuff in the prequels.
Oh, there's
one's like, yeah, but there's good stuff.
No reappraising of the Matrix, but that's because again, like Lost, no one's going back to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if they did, they still wouldn't reappraise them.
Nope.
I don't think.
No.
In fact, this is sad. The only reappraising that I have seen happen with The Matrix is that first movie's not as good as we all thought it was.
Yeah.
I do hear some of that.
I've seen some of that. I've also seen some, like, philosophical people be like, well, there is some stuff in those sequels, but it's not executed well.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's any different than it was at the time either, really.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really know anyone that defends specifically this one, but even two that much. Like, it's interesting because I think 2 and 3 are very distinctly different, where, like, 2 is not great and 3 is very bad. But I feel like they're just lumped together as the Matrix sequels.
Well, and in that way, it has the same thing, and this isn't fair entirely, but in that way, it kind of has the same thing that the Schumacher Batman movies have, where people like to lump those together.
Yep. Where Forever is significantly better than Batman and
Robin, but people like to talk about them because of the way Batman and Robin was received. And like, there's the same thing. Like, some of the things that people that haven't gone back to them like to complain about with Batman and Robin were present in Batman Forever.
Mm-hmm. And vice versa. People complain about things in Batman Forever that aren't actually in them. It's in Batman Robin.
Yeah. Where people will be, oh, nipples in the Batsuit. Well, they had that in Forever, but you liked that movie more than you did Batman and Robin. Like, there's other crazy things to complain about. But people think they're the same movie. Mm-hmm. And they're not. Mm. And these are not the same movies. The difference is, I think, at least looking at just a scale with the Batman movies in the 90s, Forever is one of the better of them. And, I guess Matrix Reloaded of these three is the second best, but that's not saying a ton. It's still not great.
I mean, it's also not saying much. Like, Batman Forever is the best Batman movie of the 90s, like when your competition is Returns and
Batman and Robin.
Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I know some people really like Returns, but I rewatched that recently. I didn't hate it as much as I have before. But I also rewatched Forever. I didn't like it as much as I did before. So,
well, last time I saw Returns, I hated it as much as I ever have. So, although that was a fun watch because of all the what the heck moments from Jason. Because I showed it to Jason, and that was enjoyable.
Well, I was intentionally ignoring the things I usually criticize about the movie, which is all story and character. I was really just kind of like appreciating the atmosphere and the sets.
And so then when you went to Batman Forever, you were doubling down on story, and it just didn't work out? Is that what happened?
Yeah, kind of. Well, I was like, well, this is the good one.
First mistake, sir.
Yeah, this is the good one. This is the one where they have like
actually
a little
kind
bit
of
more
about
character.
Batman.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, this is not that good.
Well, don't watch Forever and Batman Begins back to back. That would be a mistake.
Well, yeah, but like, I always give Forever credit for being like much more about like character and stuff, but like,
compared to 89 and Returns, I mean...
Yeah, but, like, compared to, like, other things like The Shadow or, like, Darkman or, like, other things like contemporaries...
Oh, no, you're right.
It doesn't have as much going on. I don't even know there's as much going on character-wise as The Phantom.
Or Dick Tracy.
Or Dick Tracy, yeah. Well, and the...
Even The Phantom.
Yeah.
You know, and then
It's more exciting than The Phantom. I think The Phantom's problem is... It's a fun adventure movie that's not actually that fun.
And then that 90s Zorro movie is in a totally other league.
Mask of Zorro is so good.
It's genius. Yeah.
I will fight people about Mask of Zorro. It's so good.
Vince and I did a commentary on that earlier in the year.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
It's so good.
That was fun.
I think it's like Begins good and also does a lot of things that Begins did, but before it.
Or at least close. I mean, I'm obviously more partial to Begins, but yes, you're right.
But you're also more partial to Batman.
Batman.
Well, I mean, I am too, but like...
Sure.
But Mask of Phantasm, Mask of Zorro was a big part of my childhood, so... I saw it in theaters instead of Small Soldiers.
But fun to imagine that a contemporary Batman saw that movie the night his parents died.
And he's old enough now.
Yeah.
Like it lines up perfectly. Like we've got like a 5-year window where we can do.
We need to do that once.
We do.
That needs to be in
really
something.
Do.
Well, there we go. There's Matrix Revolutions. We got through it. Yay!
We did all 4 Matrix movies.
Let's do something good next time, Eric.
Yeah.
Can we do that?
Yeah.
That'd be great. Because only half of this was good.
Yeah. Well,
even though I still enjoy Reloading, and maybe only half of Animatrix is actually really good.
Yeah. So I was trying to figure out what like the math on that is. Like 3/8 of this was good.
Like 1.4. Anyway, well, everybody, thanks a lot for listening. Hope you enjoyed it. Leave us your comments. Let us know what you thought about this movie and any of our thoughts. And we will see you again with lots more stuff here on Geekvolution this week. And Eric and I doing more comic reviews and things. And I'm sure we'll be back with more commentaries at some point. We will see you again soon. I am Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
Later, folks.